Okay. I think we're about ready to go. Hello. It's me. Who we got here? Got a few people in the chat. Okay. Hey, Juicy Bit. All right. Such a busy morning. I didn't even come up for air. Two people on YouTube. That's nice. I imagine people will probably start to trickle in. It is pretty early for a lot of people on a Sunday morning like this. Hello, Tug. Here from setting up Go video on YouTube. It was extremely helpful. Oh, great. Thank you for seeing that. If you want to do chat with us in the IRC, you're welcome to do it in Twitch too. But the IRC just RWX rob.live and click on chat, and the IRC client is there. But you're welcome for this particular session, a beginner boost, to do this. Just something to remind everybody of the schedule. I know I'm a little bit late. I've been up since 4 working on stuff. I went through my entire private repos and reorganized them and did dual pushes and set up a I'm going to do a video on that, on how to set up a local bare Git repo as a backup for your repos or private data in case you don't want to trust GitHub and GitLab for keeping all your stuff. Here's the schedule right here. So this is what we're doing right now. We're doing this 3-hour block. I'll be taking breaks through the thing and we'll go through it. We're just kind of slugging through learning web design. The more we go through the book, the more I realize that we're going to need to have a different approach. I see this in some scripts. It is something to be changed in private variables. I'll have to answer that later, Peter. I'm not going to be able to answer that for you right away. Maybe during a break. That is the knowledge net path. So it's a delimited list of knowledge bases, from the KEG initiative that we do on Fridays. The KEG initiative is the knowledge exchange grid. The knowledge exchange grid is our version of a new internet web that we've been working with under the Association for Federated Knowledge Workers on Fridays, AFK Works on GitHub. So that's what KN Path is. KN Path is my first take at a path for knowledge bases, and the first path in the knowledge base indicates your primary knowledge base on your local system, so you can manage all that. Lots of things going on here, but right now we're just doing learning web design, and we're sticking with this book despite its mounting number of problems. Which, it's a little bit disheartening because, we put so many hours into this book, and I think the book is still valuable. I did want to bring your attention to, since we're on doing CSS before we get going, I don't know how good they are yet, but I did find a CSS resource recently. I think I put it in my log. Let me go check the logs. It was in the log yesterday. Here it is. Yeah, Jen Robbins. Yay! Actually, I'm going to put this in my bookmarks. It's a new thing I have. So all one-stop shopping for all my stuff is on GitHub, github.com/rwxrob, which is the same. If you just go to the main one, you'll see it. Anyway, so let's put this bookmark in here so I can have it. Well, there's Rob. And what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and put, so we're going to put this in the bookmarks. That's a new thing I added this morning. I was really, really busy. So I cannot tell you how much I love the new YQ tool. It's so cool. So I'm adding a bookmark. This will all be automated eventually, but for right now, I can just do it with YAML. I can do T, and I can paste this stuff. Paste. Whoops, where'd it go? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. All right, we're fine. Oh, that's not good. That's not good. I have a symlink that's still broken. Oh boy. Oh, woe is me. I have been messing with my private repos all morning, and now they're going to be, some of them are going to be messed up. I haven't started the thing officially yet. We'll do that really soon. I haven't actually put the actual title on the title change, so I'll do that in a bit. And when we actually start, that's why I love that I can do that now. Got something in my teeth. I need to change the setup here and add a configuration. Twitch tmux. Wait. Twitch.conf. Where's my other? Oh, I see what's going on. Yep. I'm saying, I'm sorry. I mean, I'm trying my hardest here. That one should have been fine. That means I'm still missing one. Give me a second. I'm going to totally simplify all of this because I needed it to be modular before, but I don't need it so much now. There we go. Yep. Yep. All right. So now what? Tmux Live is a new thing that I have. It logs in. Let me make sure this is working. Yep. CL, and then I should be able to do let's see, RWX Rob bookmarks. So this is a CSS file. Well, mix in. All right, and then we're gonna make. I'm gonna go get that log from yesterday. It should. I don't like that it writes new ones. I need to make it so it doesn't always write new ones, but that'd be fine. And cd into RWX bookmarks. This is all. I'm going to automate all of this with a tool. All right. So it is learning Java's. Well. This should be, that log's not even entry. I made a mistake there. I just found it. Thank God. So HTTPS / modern css.dev. There. Now you can go play with it. And I just need to just do a quick generate. And now it's in the README properly. So now you'll have learning. Whoops. Didn't do the whole thing. I just made that this morning. I want to put modern CSS generate and this was yesterday. All right, stuff I'm cleaning up here. Learning JavaScript from Jennifer Robbins, which didn't get replaced because it's not all in the same line. And yeah, so anyway, modern CSS. Just go check that out. So yeah, that git add hashay. Bookmark to modern css.dev. Whoo-wee. All right. Let's see if we can go find this. So if you go blob schedule bookmarks. So this is linked on the main page, but not from. So I should be here. Did I not push it? Damn it. One thing at a time. There we go. Modern CSS. Click on modern CSS. There you go. Modern CSS. And This has gotten some pretty good reviews, including from Chris. He was, pretty famous in the season when he made CSS, Pen.io and all that stuff. So if you're interested in CSS, is a big thing. Grid converts. It's just really good. I haven't been able to go through it all yet to test it out. Keep the footer at the bottom, flexbox versus grid. So yeah, she's got an interesting YouTube style. She's very, very quiet, and she's not me. But I like that she's been kind of thorough on some of the stuff here, but I haven't tested it out. So we are talking about CSS right now, and with that, I'm going to go ahead and change the topic. So if I can get you guys back. Got 4 people here from the YouTube, and a few more from the Twitch. I don't expect we'll ever get a huge group here because, well, first of all, it still says I'm away. And secondly, it's going to be web development, and not everybody is into web development, including me. I used to be really into it, and now I'd rather terminal all the things. But we're gonna do the CSS so we can understand it. You have to understand all of the stuff to go, even at a minimal level. Even in a high school class, they would teach you these things, most of them, before you could go on to other technologies and stuff like that. So that's why we do this. What is next? We need to do the topic. So beginner boost. Probably have a topic in here somewhere that's got a beginner boost on it. Oh no, I think I wiped out. Let's see. So topic. We'll do walkthrough of learning web design, a CSS, and let's go see exactly what part of CSS we're on before we get going. Web design. So there's the book. CSS presentation. I'm gonna have to full screen it again. A lot of these things lost their configuration when I changed where everything lives. So yeah, go down here. See how far we got. Introducing cascading subsets. We did that. So we've been talking about what they are. I think we're going to get into writing the rules. We did that. We made our first style sheet. We got the document down. We learned about the terminology. We confirmed it actually with the specification. And this is going to talk about the document structure a little bit. And I mean, this is one of these areas where I feel like the breakup of the content wasn't very well organized. You need to talk about the document object model earlier on. I mean, she does talk about it a little bit earlier on, but in order to pull this up. So we're going to be talking about this going forward. So this is where we're at. So we're going to talk about the big concepts. So for big ideas you need to know, get your head around, be comfortable with CSS. I'm going to introduce these concepts now. All right. So let's put that in our thing. So big concepts. I'm pretty sure we're going to run out of room. Did I see that right? Walkthrough, learning web design, CSS, the big concepts, beginner boost. Oh, yay, we survived. It was under 80 characters. All right. So, assuming you can see all that, we can get going on this. Let me just make sure everything updated because I have to. Beginner boost. There we go. Live streaming here. We got 3 here. And let me refresh this. So it should say beginner boost now. Yep, beginner boost. All right. And let me just check the Twitter. Because I've been messing with stuff all morning, so I appreciate your patience. Walkthrough, learning web design, CSS, beginner concepts. All right. DM here password. I'll tell you if it's secure. And the last thing, and this should tell me if my stuff is going to be secure. Walkthrough. All right, so we're ready to go. Not quite as bad as Professor Messer, but not unlike Professor Messer in my preparation there. The big concepts. All right, so let's talk about CSS. CSS is actually a really great thing if you like graphics and stuff and colors and all of that. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Inheritance. So I'm going to net this out for you. Whatever comes last wins. Got it? Just remember that. Don't really need to read this. That's what inheritance is. Whatever comes last wins. Okay? In general, the term inheritance is frowned upon in the entire computer science world these days because it can cause so many problems, i.e. I wanted a banana and I got a whole jungle. And we can talk about that with Java and other languages later. But as you can see, whatever's last wins. There's some exceptions to that, and that's what gets crazy. Document structure. So back to this idea of the DOM. All right, so you got this diagram of the document tree, but it's actually much more than this. On top of HTML is a thing called a document, and I believe there's a thing called a window, which is outside of that. It's not even included in that. So you can think of if there was like a box right here that says window, and there's a box right here that says document, and this goes under it, and then there is there's another box for browser in some cases, but not always. It used to be called Navigator. I think they've changed it. So those are all the things that you can interact with, and you can see those things the most visually, and the most entertaining way to play around with these things is to go to the web browser and start messing with stuff. So we're going to go back and find our, I think our 8080 is down right now. So we'll CD into learning web design. Start my server. We covered this already, how to start a server. Oh no, where is it? Where are you? I don't know where it is. I moved some stuff around, that's why I'm wondering. I don't know. We're gonna find out. It might be under RDBX Rob. There it is. Learn web design. All right. So we're going to start the server. Actually, let's do this. Let's take this thing here and exit all out of our tmux sessions. It's a good habit to do this. Wait. Yep, we got one more left. Exit out of all our tmux sessions. Go to where you're going to be doing the work. So cd learn web design. All right. Now I'll tmux in here, and so it'll do all my tmux sessions from this location. And now I can start a server and leave that running there, and then I can make a new window, and then I'm already here. So, all right, and now when we come back here and reload, we should see our server with our good old marquee tag. Let's go to something that's more useful. Let's do, I don't know, Linux, the one with 12 volts on it. Inspect element, so we can get our inspector console, and then we turn up our console, and we get all this junk. These are not errors. These are just warnings. Blocked due to Mime tab. Text plain mismatch. It's not text. Why is it loading main.js from that location? I might need to fix that right now. You see, this is trying to load linux/main.js. That means I have an error in my HTML. So let's cd into Linux. And I can't read it, but let's go see here. Is there a main in here? Oh, yeah, there it is. Hello from the console. Hello from main.js. All right, so let's go back to /main, and that should work. That'll get rid of our error anyway. Should. Mismatch. Is there not one there? CSS. Woo! We have. I put it in assets. Yeah, this is like a messy site. It is under assets. Okay, so let's do slash assets slash main.js. Reload. All right, this error went away. Favicon we don't have, we don't care. That's fine. We trash all those errors. This is what I'm talking about with that whole this thing, right? So I want to show you how you can kind of interactively explore this and have fun with it more than reading the book. So document. Actually, watch this. Window. Dot. You see that? You got all kinds of things with window. Now, here's something fun you can do with window. You can actually change the location, local storage. This is so you have all of these things that are built into your web browser. The most important ones related to CSS are related to the documents and to the HTML tree that she talks about. But I just want to make you aware of the other ones that also exist. So local storage is a place you can store things, game high scores and stuff like that. You can actually change the location. Watch this. Mime type would be web server headers, right? Yes, it's one of the headers, Tavern. So so I can actually change my location to be RWX. There's going to be a string. This is how you can redirect your browser. RWX.gg. And it goes to the other site. Pretty cool, huh? So obviously we can go back, but all you have to do is just change the location and it'll go there. There's a bunch of stuff you can explore that exists as part of the object model for the browser, as well as the document object model. So the Windows is kind of out of that. Navigator is another one. These are other areas that are sort of defined here, and you can go look at these objects and see everything about them. As I said, it's more fun to explore with the console inspector than it is to just read through a book here. So you might just want to go tinker. This is kind of, since the beginning of this series, it's been kind of like web design for hackers because we are always like looking at ways to make it more fun and deal with the console. You got to learn HTML and CSS and JavaScript for hacking because you got to be able to get in there and understand how it works. So look at this. You got all these different things in here you can look up. So we have I've showed you a couple of other objects that are there. That's how companies know which OS I'm at. Oh yeah, totally. Exactly, DFlare. See? So it's kind of fun, right? We just figured that out. You can actually spoof this so that they'll never know what browser you're coming from. Yeah, you can change these things. You can like explore all your different settings, and please have at, explore all this stuff, understand how the requests work. I mean, of course, I've told you before, the network tab, which Chrome, both of them have, is probably the best way to understand. Yeah, it's called user agent. Is the best way to understand what's getting sent back and forth and how the requests are being sent back and forth. We have the DOM content loaded. I have cache. This is also where you turn off cache, by the way, so that doesn't ruin your day when you're trying to edit things. You can click on any one of these requests, and as I said here, you can look up the actual request, the headers that were sent, the things that gave you up and said, hey, this is what I am. I'm a Mozilla agent. There it is right there. There's a Mozilla agent. So this is your tool. If you want to understand web in general, as well as a designer or as a hacker or whatever, you need to learn this inspector and debugger interface because it's so powerful these days that it's really, really, hey, how's it going? It's really great for you to get a handle on. Not to mention this console is a built-in interactive JavaScript REPL, or read, evaluate, print loop, REPL. So we did window, we did document, we did window and we did navigator. And Navigator dates back to Netscape Navigator, which is one of the first ones. But the most important one is document. And document represents everything about your HTML document, and it matches the root of your site. So that's the thing. So it says this is an HTML document. You can look at its children, and that's that whole hierarchy thing. So we have the body. Okay, let's see if we can find its child nodes. This is where the term Node.js comes from. So everything in the DOM is a node, every title, every white space, every span, every background setting. All of those things are nodes. Actually, not background, but so this there you see. How's it going, 42? Thank you. It's a great community. Yeah, these guys are great. So as you can see, HTML is not the top. All right. So unlike this would lead you to believe, HTML is not the top. In fact, it's really important to understand that because there's a very important one that's out now called :root, which selects the whole root of the document and can be used for setting variables and stuff. So I just want to supplement what's in this book with, you know, these additional things that are even above or on the side of HTML. So as you can see, the doc type HTML, the first node, the first element of the document is the node type thing, right? And then you have a comment. We have a comment in there. And then we have the HTML link. Now, this is where it gets really fun because you open up this one. You notice there's nothing else in here, right? That's it. Something that is interesting, though, is that they have a doc type. So these are all peers of each other. The term is peer. So siblings, whatever you want to call them, they're at the same level in the graph tree. So there's a doc type, and there's a comment, or whatever, and then there's HTML. But there's no more. Why? Well, because everything else is a child of HTML, a descendant from HTML. And you can go in here, and if you want to, you can go look at the child nodes of HTML. And you have head. You have. See, this is interesting. People think that elements are the only things in the DOM, and they are not. You have other nodes in the DOM that are not elements, and that's what we have here, right? We have a text node that comes as a peer to the head. You have head is the first tag, right? The first element. And inside of this, we can go look for some stuff. And then we have some text, it looks like we have a piece of white space. That's what that is. That's important because that's why you get an extra line sometimes, or an extra space. And then we have a body tag. So head, people would see, they would look at this, just by looking at the source code and go, oh, there's only 2 child. So if you want to trip somebody up, say, how many children are there of the HTML element? And they would say, well, 2, of course, head and body. Well, in this case, there's not. There's 3. By the way, how would we make it so there's only 2? Anybody want to guess? How would we make it so that there's only 2 elements instead of 3? You actually can do this. You can probably guess. Comments or nodes? Yep. Yep, they are. I know, isn't that crazy? Because it has to parse it anyway, so I might as well make it a node. It doesn't just throw it away. So you can go into, let's go into our Linux page. And again, the goal here is to get rid of, we only want 2 nodes under HTML instead of 3. It's not that big a deal, but I do want you to see that it can be done. So we have head and body here, right? You remember it said it had a text node between head and body? That's this right here. So if I get rid of it, watch. See that? I got rid of it. So head and body start one right after the other. And now when I reload, if everything is working correctly, document children nodes. And you'll see, oh, there's still, oh, no, wait, that's right. Why are you doing that? I didn't mean for you to do that. Okay. Oh boy, you sure are mad. HTML, and then we're going to find the child nodes. So now there's only 2 because we got rid of that text. So don't forget that whatever's in between the thing is also a node or 2. Sometimes it can be more than 1. You also have children here, and this is very much the same as this. I believe children is only HTML elements though, and I'm going to go prove that right now to myself. I think if we put this back, well, maybe not. We'll see. Footer was supposed to be a child of HTML. Footer is inside of HTML. Yeah. Footer is a child of HTML. It definitely is. And so we're going to open this. I don't have a footer in my document. That's why you're not seeing one. So let's do this document dot child nodes, and we'll open this up. So we have our 3 nodes. We go back to HTML. Now, what is the difference between I've always wondered this, and I still, to tell you the completely truth, I still wonder what the difference is. But I think we might have a hint right here. So a child node means that there's text in it. So 1, 2, 3, right? I think children, there's only 2. Yep. There you go. So that's the difference. I finally got my head on it completely, thanks to our little test here. So a node, empty text, anything that's parsed in the parse tree in the graph, it's called a graph structure, by the way. It's a rooted node tree. Otherwise, it is if you get into computer science and they start talking about graph theory and what are graphs and stuff, this is networks and stuff. They're all graphs, but a rooted tree like this is a type of node tree. And that's how you parse things and make sense of, content. So here we go. So children only has 2 items. And that's probably what you would expect, whereas nodes has 3 because there's text in between. And if you wanted to match, you would get rid of that. So it looks like you probably don't want to work with child nodes very much. You probably just want to work with children. So, and this actually goes along with our little document here. Where did our document go? HTML, head, body, and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. Right? So we're going to go do that. We're going to drill down and show that right now. Let's see. Everything I'm seeing online says it's in the body these days. The footer is in the body, yeah. It's in HTML inside the body, and the body is inside HTML. So yeah. Yeah, it's semantically it's supposed to be within the body, right? Yeah. Head and main. Actually, this is why people get confused. We went all the way through HTML section already, but there's head, heading, and header, and people wonder where they all go and what the difference is. And footer, there's only one, right? So what do we got here? We got this HTML children here, the children's, and we can actually change it. We can add stuff to it automatically. If we just add new nodes to it, we can build our. You guys ever been on a website that continues to load every time you scroll down? That's all it's doing. It's just adding nodes to the bottom. It's called lazy loading. So here we have children, head, access keys, all this jazz, our base URI, and we have the head item, right? Well, what do you imagine the children of head are going to be? Let's go check. The children of head are, we have our meta, we have our title. Well, what does our title have children? I don't know. Let's look. It does. Okay, so the header, the title itself has children, but the children are, it doesn't have any children actually, but it does have a node. See? Yeah. So that's important. So a child, that's like elements, right? Children is elements. Nodes are everything. And so that includes the stuff that goes between the element tags. So if you were going to mess with this, you would go children and go, okay. But it's like, well, what is in here? Well, we have a node here. Okay, we have one node in here, and here it is. Text intro to Linux. Interesting. Why is it? Let's see what there's one. Let's open that up and look. I love experimenting like this. I think hashtag text is a reference to the type of node it is. I don't know though. So data introduction to Linux. So there's the data. All the other things that we might have in here, it tells you link. Man, it's everything, right? All this stuff, by the way, gets parsed. It's so amazing how quickly it does it. Ooh, this is nice. Owner document. So which document do you belong to? So that's like a reverse look. You want to, if you're like dealing with a node down at the bottom, you can say, hey, well, who do you belong to? So this is all going to come up later when we start doing JavaScript. So I want you to understand how to look at all these things. Because all JavaScript really does is manipulate all of these things. It just puts stuff in there. It handles events, that get triggered by interaction. And then the code that you write is almost always messing with stuff that's in the DOM. And so does CSS. CSS is doing the same thing. It's just giving it style. So we're going to go back there. Let me take some questions from y'all. Oh, how's it going, Yorichi? Mime types come from, mime types are in the header. So you can think of every web request is asking for basically an email that's static. That's actually where it came from. The stuff at the top is the headers and the body's got HTML or whatever in it. And the stuff in the top includes lots and lots of different headers. One of the headers is a MIME type header, which tells you what type it is. And you saw that when we click on network. I think you saw it already, right? So just to refresh back to that, what we talked about already. Questions from anybody on Twitch here? MIME type, that'd be the web server headers, right? Yeah, a couple of people asking the same question. So yeah, let me go back and show that since that was asked. Wait, here we go. So network, the MIME type, here's the MIME type, MIME type. MIME type has two parts. There's the, it has this part and then the other part. Actually, just funny, I just wrote a script if you guys want it, for determining the MIME type of a thing using the file command. It's pretty damn cool. If I do say so myself. So MIME type, it's not even that hard. That's okay, Tavern. I have no problem with that. So what kind of that? It's an image JPEG. What's the MIME type of index.html? A text HTML. What's the MIME type of the binls command? Application X shared library. Ooh. If you want one, I can give you one now. You want to get one? Here we go. I have a new command for this, which I just did yesterday. I do it all the time. Who else is going to pat me on the back? Bye. So give MIME type. Not even really that hard. So does that work? I just finished that script yesterday. You can watch the video of me working on it. So you can go if you want to play around with the MIME type. Okay. And I mean, we might as well open this link. When we did this, copy link, links, paste. There it is. That's all it is. There's not even that much. It is actually Tavern, and stay tuned. I'll show you how you can use Windows and put Bash on Windows. Windows already comes with Bash actually these days. So yeah, all good news for the future. Back to CSS. So stick with the book. We talked about parents and children. I think we went through the whole thing about descendants, and we talked about the difference between nodes and children, which I don't believe she talks about. It's really important that you do understand the difference. So siblings are ones that go next to each other. Pass it on. When you write a font related style rule using P as a selector, the rule applies to all of the paragraphs, as well as the inline elements that contain them. So when you apply something using CSS selector, everything inside of that selector, or inside every element, every child of that paragraph gets the same rule. Okay, that's the cascading part of the whole thing. So here we go. So if I set a font size on a paragraph, everybody gets the change, right? That means it passes down to EM and everybody else. That's what's meant by cascading. When you learn a new property, it's a good idea to note whether it inherits. Inheritance is noted for every property listed in the book. For the most part, inheritance follows your expectations. So if you're using something, its value at that moment is the same thing that it inherited from the parent above it and its parent above it. So that's, again, this is going to become a thing later when you might change something and you're not as precise in what it is that you're changing. You change like all paragraphs and all your paragraphs change, even though you really only wanted one particular paragraph or two to change. So that's going to become an issue later. So that's why she's talking about that, I imagine. So yeah, if you change the body, everything changes. I mean, everything under the body changes. And that's how come the colors are propagated down. Conflicting styles. Now, okay, they call it cascading because it applies several to the same document. Every new sheet that you add, the last one wins. And when there is a conflict, the last one wins automatically. And it doesn't even warn you. It just takes over and wins. And that is the hardest part about CSS. And I already told you how to fix that, how to find it. The computed properties tab on your inspector thing here is your best friend when it comes to CSS. Because when you click on, so let's click on something. I talked about this already last time, but if I'm clicking on HTML, I'm like, why is the background green on everything? When you want to know what made the background green, and you don't want to look through all of the CSS to find out which thing won, which is hard, because you might, it's not always what's at the bottom of the page. Sometimes things at the top of the page win for reasons that are confusing, and we'll talk about. But even though it's supposed to be the stuff on the bottom, right? Well, if you want to get to the bottom of the mystery and do your investigation, you can go say, okay, well, here's what sets it to be green. I see it's green here. And you can say, oh, it was set to be green by styles.css line 3. You can even click on this and get a copy of it. This is not the actual one. If you change it here, it won't change it permanently, but you can set it to do that actually. But bad idea. So mostly though, if you want to go in here and just mess around with stuff, you can do that. You can change it to be, and I think it will even pick it up. Yep. See, there you go. See that? So, and if you want to do this, if you want to do live changes to the site, you can copy these things over back into your code, depending on what kind of previewer you're using. So I could do like a gray background. How about that? There's a gray background. 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Oh, that's pretty white there. Let's do, I don't know, dark golden. This is another reason to use it, is all the completion. This is one case where completion, you guys hear me bag on completion all the time, but this is one place where using completion makes a lot of sense, if you ask me. So, it didn't change. Oh, it changed the color, but not the background. That's interesting. Why you not change? All right, gray. How about gray? Looks like it only does FFs. Oh, I didn't click on save. Dope. Oh, see what you can do? You can actually save it if you want. I don't know if I would do that, but you can. Some people do all their development right in here the entire time. Yeah. So, reload. We'll get our old one back. There we go. Back to our console. And back to our document. To different degrees. Yeah. It'd be a pain to have an autocomplete. That's true. Well, it is until, like, I'll tell you the time when it's worth a lot. It's weight in gold. So like if you don't remember the colors, or you don't remember the arguments, like let's find a bulleted list, for example. Let's say inspect on this guy. That's how you zoom in on it, by the way. That'll zoom right in on it. Here we have our markers. Let's go to this LI, right? And this U here. And if you don't remember how to change the, first of all, maybe you don't even remember the name of the property, which is me all the time. So you're going to add a new one. I'm going to say, I want this to have, I know it's something like a text decoration. That's the underscore stuff. No, it's actually, I know it has decoration in it. I don't remember what it's called. List style type, list style image. Yeah. List style type. Okay. And well, this is always annoying too. List style type, and then tab, and then you can say what kind you want. I want a decimal. How about that? And you click on it, and it changes it. Yeah. So anything you change here is not permanent. There are ways to make it permanent, but I wouldn't recommend them. What I recommend is you use this to test everything out, and then once you get it kind of previewed the way you want it, then go back over here and do it. And this is for this kind of development. When you start to do real development, you'll use a tool like Browser Sync that when you make any change and save it to the script at all, it automatically changes it, boom, with no inspector at all. And that becomes more useful as soon as you memorize more stuff, and also when you need to preview on like a phone and an iPad all at the same time. And that's what's really good at doing that. And we won't be talking about browser sync during this series, but we will at some point get to it in the end. That's why I wanted you to learn how to make your own server and Go in 34 lines of code, you know, so you can make your own servers. I do believe a lot of people have been saying just use Python dash whatever, or just use Node for that. And the CSS chick, I forget her name, who's teaching this, Stephanie, who teaches this, she recommends using Node.js to start up a server and do it this way. She has a whole thing for that. I really, really think you should write your own server in Go, because that's the way backend programming is working. Plus, it gives you an opportunity to learn 2 languages as opposed to just being, you know, torpedoed into JavaScript your whole life. Which one? What is that? What is that particular link? Oh, changes. Right. Right. Yep. I think I know what you're talking about. Where is that? Oh, that must be the Chrome one. Yeah, that's in Chrome. Yeah, that's another reason to use Chrome for development, by the way. I am a big fan of that. Oh wait, I'm looking at the wrong place. Never mind. Maybe it is here. I thought change. Oh, there it is. I thought changes. I thought it was. Yeah. Yeah. Changes. Well, I don't think I've used this before. This is different than what I was thinking. I thought you were talking about where you're going to go to like save, make it so that it saves all the stuff you've done. You know what I mean? I didn't know about this. This is really cool. You know, community for the win again. Wow, that's super cool. So that tells you everything you've changed, and you can just copy all the changes and put it in a diff. I wonder how well it pastes it. Let's try paste. Ooh. Inline number 1 HTTP Linux localhost. Not bad. Not bad. Yeah, it's not in Chrome. So that's maybe why I don't remember it. So I'm just going to take a moment to talk about that. So there is pretty substantial differences between the dev tools in Firefox and Chrome these days. I think it's fair to say, because yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so much to keep up on. There's no way I would ever learn it. But you know, you found out about it because you explored, right? You found out some cool things and got to exploration. That's cool. That's the best way to do it. Testing. How's it going, Gluten? I'm just going to say that Chrome and Firefox have positive and negatives on both sides. I personally like how Firefox shows you CSS Grid and Flexbox better than how Chrome does it. It's very fair to say that Firefox raised the bar on dev tools very early on, and then Google took it up and just blew them away. The dev tools that are in Chrome are really, really superior for most things, but that's one thing I've never seen in Chrome ever. It doesn't mean it's not there. It just means I haven't seen it. They keep adding stuff. They have an entire team dedicated to just improving the developer experience in DevTools. That's their only job. Yeah, the DevTools in Netscape were amazing. Yes, they were. And you know, that kept on going, and of course, all of that stuff, by the way, is fueled in Rust. That's where Rust got its big start. Came with tools to publish pages like a documenter. I remember you could actually use Netscape Editor, and you could go in there and literally edit your web page live. And so it had all that stuff from the beginning. I wonder how soon into the process Rust came to be, because you know the code bases are really different now, right? They're different language and everything. But those two browsers are not going anywhere. They're going to be around forever. But there's pluses and minuses. I'll tell you what this sucks at. It's horrible when it comes to progressive web applications. You can't monitor service workers at all unless they've changed it. So I'm kind of geeking out here. Pause me before I geek out. So I haven't been doing topics either in this stream. I probably should be doing them better. So in fact, what are we let's do a recap. So yeah, let's do. I'm going to do a topic, and I'm going to recap the whole DOM thing, and then I'm going to take a quick little break. Priority, specificity, assign importance. Okay, we're going to come back to that. Rule order. Well, let's just knock this out. This stuff's pretty easy to go through. So you've already seen the rules and what they look like, the declarations and all that. So I don't know how to say this without showing you. I think it's probably important I show it to you. So remember I said there were like a whole bunch of ways to change a variable. I mean, to change a property. You can change it inline like this, which applies it as if it had been written right there. You can change it in the style element within the page, and you can change it, in some other page. So the priority is anything that is inline wins, right? If it's inline, it wins, unless it has important. And I really don't like this. This is actually an anti-pattern. Sometimes people will get lazy, including me, because they don't want to go dig around and figure out how everything cascades properly. So they'll just throw a bang import on the end of their rule. And what that does is that says this one wins no matter what. The problem is if you do it with another one, then which one wins? You have the same problem as before. So the style information can come from various origins listed here from highest priority to lowest. In other words, items higher in the list override items below. This is probably one of the most important pieces of this entire part. Any style rule marked exclamation point important by the reader wins. Marked exclamation important by the author. So the only way that would be for the user would be if you did it in the web browser, I would imagine. I can't imagine any other way. Any style rule marked bang important by the author. Style sheets written by the author. Style sheets written by the reader. Browser default style user rules, user agent style sheet. Now that thing gets in the way all the time. So each browser has a slightly different style sheet that it uses by default. And we'll talk about normalizing that so that everything looks the same across browsers. But that's one of the biggest annoyances of web development. It's frankly, it's one of those like busy work kind of things that really puts off people who want to get stuff done. Because you have to know, what style sheet wins and whether it's the user agent is going to use it and how it deals. Firefox notoriously deals with whitespace way differently than whitespace is dealt with other things. So let's read about those things. Specificity. It is possible for conflicts to arise in which element is getting style instructions from more than one rule. For example, there may be a rule that applies to paragraphs and another rule for paragraphs that has an ID intro. Which rules should the paragraph use? When two rules in a style sheet conflict, the type of selector is used to determine the winner. The more specific the selector, the more weight is given to the overriding conflict declarations. You're never going to remember that. You're just not. So what do you end up doing? Trying it out. You're like, okay, well, how can I get one that's more specific? How can I do that? In our example, the selector that includes the ID name hashtag intro is more specific than a general element selector like P. So if there is a P thing and there's also the ID and there's a class selector, I think classes are less priority than the ID selector. I think that has more priority. It's a little too soon to be discussing specificity, but we're looking at two types of selectors. So there you go. Assigning importance. If you want a rule not to be overridden by a subsequent rule that conflicts, do important just after the property. To guarantee the paragraph text will be blue, use the following rule. And that will say, no. You can try to override it, but I'm not going to let you. I'm not going to let you. And the thing that's really weird about this is this: when you do bang important like that, it takes over priority, even over element priorities in the attributes list, which is like, I don't think that's a good idea. The item will still be blue because the rule important indicator cannot be overridden by other styles. So once you do important, that's it. The first important wins. But what happens if you put two importants in there on accident? We should probably test that. The only way an important rule may be overridden is by conflicting rule in the reader style sheet that also has marked important. This is to ensure that special reader requirements such as large type or high contrast text for the visually impaired are never overridden. So you can actually change fonts and stuff in your reader. Has anybody ever done this? I think that's what they mean by reader. Have you guys ever changed the reader stuff? Here, I'm gonna show you what they mean. Safari has changed. Yeah. You add it to the HTML tree. Does it just go through the tree twice? CSS? Yeah. Yeah, in fact, you can see that if you put your styles at the bottom of the page, it will. Has anybody ever seen this? It will draw the page, particularly if you have a lot of HTML. This is why it's usually good to put your CSS at the beginning, because there's people argue about this time. Now there's async to deal with this, but because particularly if you put it in a separate file, right? So if you put your link in the header to a CSS thing, and you don't specify async or something to make it fast, it will wait and it won't render anything else on the page until that CSS is downloaded. So if you have a massive style sheet, they'll be like 1, 2, waiting for the page to load. The reverse of that, if you put the style sheet at the end, which you can totally do, but the style thing can go anywhere. The link or the style thing can go anywhere. And if you do that, then you get a different problem. Now your whole page, depending how long it is, your whole page draws using the default user agent style sheet. And then all of a sudden, like magic, your CSS gets loaded and the whole page gets transformed. So it's not just a second pass, it's an ongoing pass that's constantly looking for changes to any of the elements in the DOM. It's like happening like thousands, millions of times a second, trying to find out if anything has changed at all. And it has to do that because anytime you resize the window or anything, it has to redraw the whole page all the time. And so that's what's going on. And you can like, inject yourself in the middle of that. Using events and CSS is actually doing that. You change the CSS element, and next time it paints the screen, it's going to paint it with the new stuff, and it happens so quickly you don't see it. The best way I've seen specificity explained is like this: ID class element to specify it and ignore that act as classes for specificity. So a selector that contains one ID would be an element of 1.0.0. And a selector that contains one element would be 0.0.1. That is a really great way to explain that. That's fantastic. So 1.0 clearly beats that. So you have ID, class, and element. Okay, those go without saying. And then important, which says I win no matter what. The only thing that beats an important is if the reader changes. And I want to spend a moment now that I know what they're talking about. So if I want to override this page, and I want to say, I don't even know how to do it. I'm going to go find mine right now. I don't know. Nobody does. We used to do this all the time. The reader, this is a sidetrack that I don't want to go down right now, but, I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to decide how to talk about this. Okay. So I don't know if it's worthy of the rant. How's it going, Just Ben? So, I was thinking about ranting about when the web first came out, all the power was with the reader, and now all the power is with the author. And I'm actually gonna do a topic on this. So where's my TP? Must be the other one. Nope. All right. So TP. I'm gonna say. Power CSS web power to the reader or author. Who gets the power? Who gets the power? I kind of want to have this little debate. All right, I know it's going to be a diversion. That's why I'm tagging it. But I do want to get your input on this because this is really important for being a web developer. As well as the future of the web. All right. Okay. So In the early days of the web, you had no choice whatsoever. And a lot of people say the user's dumb. Most authors think that the reader has no rights and that they're stupid and that they need to be told what to do or they shouldn't do anything. It's true story. Let's go search for the first web page. And so here's the very first web page. You can still go find it, actually. And it's going to hurt my eyes. Tim Berners-Lee. There it is. Yep, this is it. Now, I've got dark mode on, thank God. Prepare your eyes. Dark mode is coming off. Now, the thing that's really sad about this is you can't see the original colors of the web. The original colors of the web had, let me see if I can do it. It had a sort of muted dark background. It was not and blinded. I know, guys. The very first version of the web did not have white backgrounds. But you see, and you still see this today. You see hyperlinks are blue. Visited hyperlinks are purple. And this isn't even doing it now. It's been totally taken over by the user agent style sheet. But you almost have to see pictures. You have to go to images to see what it first looked like. So I'm going to go show you some of those, if I can find some. Oh my gosh, those are so blind. This is what you saw. And I love it because I think it's interesting to note that it did not blind you. The first version of the World Wide Web did not blind you. There were other things that would blind you, but not the default background. The default background was gray. They wanted a default gray background instead of this bright white. And I mean, this is like the website, and people got really fancy with it, right? So, and you had all your links were blue. The end. You could not. There was no such thing as styles. You could make a clickable text. There was no font changes. You had to use the font that was given to you. You had to use how it wrapped. You got blue text and you got purple text if it was a visited link, and that was it. And you could change the settings for the reader. For this is IE or Explorer Edge. And that's not Edge, that's Explorer. But you could change the settings for the reader. And the reader, well, see, that's the thing. I can't even remember how to get the power now. So the closest comparison to this is your Kindle. Anybody ever use a Kindle? So when you have a Kindle, there are some books that you can change the font size and you can change the background colors and all the font itself. And the power is in the reader. And it's really important that that is a thing. I mean, that's my wife and I, it's our favorite thing because we can make it however we want, however strong our eyes feel on a given day. And we can change the experience for the reader. The reader should have the power in that case, right? And so that's a very clear case for where the reader should have the power. But then you kind of, on the other side of this, you have web apps where you have artistic blogs, which I hate that term, where, I mean, it's just, a web blog used to be just an entry that showed what you did that day, and it was just nothing fancy, maybe a picture. And so, but now blogs are like full-blown magazine articles that have all kinds of stuff in them, and they have things moving around and all kinds of stuff, and that's all fine, but it's not the same thing. And it basically just says, screw you, reader. We don't care about you. We don't care about how you can control your experience. We're going to tell you what you're going to see, and you're going to like it. You're going to like our Helvetica font, and it's just like every other. People like it though because every other editor has done the same thing. How many times can you go into the library and say, "I want this book in a different font. I'll take that Vogue magazine, but I want to change it to all sans serif font versus Helvetica." Or I don't like those pictures. I want to remove those pictures from the thing. You don't get, because it's an artistic creation. The magazine thing, the power is in the author's hands. And the real question before us, and this is a tough one, is they can take my browser extensions over my dead body. The question is, what's the right thing to do? And you don't have to have a right answer for every single case, some dogmatic thing, but you really should be asking yourself this question every time you do any sort of programming of any kind. Who's the user here, and what's their primary need going to be? So one example of that that's recently come up is a power to the readers kind of approach. Let's bring up, this is why I brought this up. User experience designers come in and force the developers to give the reader the power. Yeah. Okay. So it's like there's this dichotomy, but there's actually one huge win for the readers and the users recently. Anybody want to guess what it is? I'll give you a hint. I just blinded you all. This little thing right here, this little dark reader, is a massive win for the readers. Yeah, accessibility standards, right? Dark mode headers. So this is a case where the readers rose up and revolted against their creative overlords and said, I don't care if you think this page should be viewed with a pink or a bright background. My eyes hurt and I want it to be dark. Give me a plugin so I can throw out your shitty design decision. I love it. I love it because it's like the readers have won. The readers came forth and they said, oh yeah, if you don't listen to us, we're going to take the power. We're going to make an extension and we're going to throw your entire page out the window. And now what do you see? Now you see GitHub frantically like, oh, we have dark mode. Twitter's like, oh, we have dark mode too. Yeah. We have Amazon. We have dark mode too. Because their users are like, I ain't going to freaking look at your site if you're going to blind me. Because that is a reader concern. That's not a creator concern. And I love it. I just absolutely love it. That's like, most people don't know you can change the fonts and all those other things. But that's one thing. Most people know if you change your fonts, you can just, you can zoom in and all that. That's mostly, this is why you need to make accessible CSS, because you never know what size scale they're going to be if they're watching it on TV or something. So I wanted to just conclude with dark mode for the win. And to give you an example of how dark mode has won for the users, the readers, let's see. I always want the user to have control. I love that, man, Brave. I like that too. In fact, the version of the site that I'm working on, I want people, now that we have CSS variables, you can let people do sliders and set their own look and feel for your experience, which is really funny because those are all the same things that were built into the web browsers that nobody can remember how to use now. They were already there. And now everybody's building those controls into their site when it was all there, always there all along, and it got thrown out for creative integrity, but making them feel at home is crazy. Brand loyalty can be built by giving them what they want. I completely agree. I completely agree with that. And the fact that you can even say those words now and not be lynched by the creative design community on the web is a real step forward. And I'm just going to say the dark mode again. I really believe dark mode was a huge win for the reader and for UX people everywhere, and say, see, this is what they really want. They rose up and revolted and they proved it to everybody. And now we have something to step on when we say, you're not giving people choice about how they see things and interact with things. It's probably a bad thing. But what if the reader has too much power and then they can't read it the way that was intended? The real question is the creative people who create this stuff, the authors, the creative people who create, redundant, but the authors who make this stuff, they will argue tooth and nail that you are not having the same experience that was intended. And it's the artistic expression thing. So you got my wife who's like a fine artist. And if you take her work of art and take it to somebody and go, you know what? Well, I don't like that. I think you should change it to charcoal, and then I want this, and I'm going to take it away. Or you say, you know what? You should salt that pasta there. It doesn't have enough salt. Creative people get really angry when you suggest that what you are consuming of their art should be changed because you want it to change and it's your art now. They get very upset for all the right reasons too. I mean, it's not the same experience. Let's see. If you've been on Twitch, they've been trying to kill uBlock for months, right? And is there really such a thing? Who would decide? I think it's a matter of time that the YouTube download button extensions are important. Yeah, I think it's just a matter of time before the traditional models for power to the creators and to the hosting people is going to go away. And then it's going to become, frankly, advertising is going to dry up at some point. There will always be some form of advertising. We're already seeing this with influencers, right? Influencers are more important than advertisers right now. And I don't like them, but that's the way things are. Everybody's an influencer at some point. And the money's going to be made in other ways, and it's going to be really interesting to see how that all pans out, because they're not going to be able to block ad blocking. It's never going to happen. The world is too creative. The world will figure out how to do that, to trust the client to do the right thing. It's the universal principle of security, right? So, I mean, security is a completely different thing, and I completely agree with that. You shouldn't let them make certain changes, but there's going to be some things. So first of all, there's a big separation between applications development and document development for the web, right? They're different things. And if we can still continue, I harp on this all the time, but if you can consider those two things separately, then you're talking about considerations. For example, if you start messing around with fonts and size and components and everything, you're gonna blow away your application. Your web application is not even gonna work, because it's not going to fit on the screen. There's not going to be enough room for the components to render and all of that stuff. And there's lots of efforts to keep all of that very responsive and user friendly and all that. But they'll it's just going to be a matter of time before people realize you shouldn't be messing with some of that thing for an application. I mean, imagine if you could go in and change out all the widgets and themify your Steam client or something, and you can, right? But can you do the same thing with, I don't know. It's interesting, because the modding culture, modding apps, modding themes is not going anywhere. It's going to be there for a long time. Fork the browser and make your own browser. Yeah. The inspector for browsers. Well, okay. So the inspector is blocked for certain browsers in certain school districts, by the way. They have tried that. The thing now is that universal mandates are taking away those choices available to use to tailor a site to a specific audience. Yeah, they are. It's like I watch Twitch, although VLC, for exactly that reason, right? Through VLC, because I got fed up with dealing with the ads, so I found some way to pipe VV. Yeah, and this is interesting because I'm a content creator, and I've had to approach this from the perspective of what's the reality. The reality is people like you are so fed up with the ads that they're not even willing to sit through the ads for the sake of the person creating the content. They just won't do it. It doesn't matter how good the content, it doesn't matter how many thousands of hours I make content, there'll still be a man brave who will bypass any ads that I ever put on anything. And I'm not mad at you. I'm just saying that's the reality of how people are doing this. And if you look at the piddly amount of money that you actually make from ad revenue, even on YouTube, for that millions of things, you never want to believe. So if you are a content creator, this is really sad, because this, in some sense, is good, in some sense, it's sad. So I actually talked with a guy. This is all relevant, I promise. But I talked with a guy who created. He's a band. He's a really great band. That's God, what's it called? Anyway, and he can't make any money as a music creator anymore, at all. And I thought that was really, he goes, well, how do you make your money? He goes, well, we do live performances, and we make a modest amount off of the swag that we sell, and that's it. And they make a tiny, tiny fraction of the money that they would make anywhere else if they could do their own distribution. But because they have to sell through Amazon and Netlify, Spotify and all that, they don't make anything. And they're dirt poor, and they have lots and lots of people who listen to their music. And they've just had to say, I'm not going to do this because there's no money in it. And I think you're seeing this. I think you've seen an overall downgrade in music, and that's not a particular generational thing. I think you've seen a real downslide in music because there hasn't been money in it, frankly. Can't do live COVID lockdowns, and they're dying on the vine. I know. So whenever we figure this out, it's got to be something else. Just having a Patreon, just depending on people's charity to do the right thing, while you put in 60, 70, 80 hours a week of recording time and stuff, it's not going to cut it. And it's too bad, because people that are starting out have to be funded some other way. It's a downside of the sharing economy. We're going to have to figure it out. And that is related to the power to the user versus power to the creator. And we've taken it all the way to the point of where the author gets control of how you see the content, to the point where whether you can see the content or not, or whether you have to pay for the content. And and whereas the reader should have the power, right? It's a tough debate. I like you guys, the stuff you guys are talking about. I share a site that looks markedly different on my tech illiterate hands laptop. Yeah. Yeah. So, I don't know the answer. I'm asking the questions because I'm seriously interested. If you want to change your font, there is a way to do it. I don't ever do it, but you can do it in your preferences. Yeah, I don't even know how to do it anymore. Font. There we go. Fira Sans. So you can change it to whatever. Bitter. And you can like bump it up if you want. Does this have a default? I hope so. So, you know, and if there's nothing there, you can go change those things. But nobody changes those things and they don't know about them. And they really don't care, to tell you the truth. They're just like, whatever. The only time I ever really change anything is when I zoom. I zoom a lot. You guys probably do this too. And this does mess you up. But yeah, good ad blockers for mobile browsers because they have control of mobile. You think they're going to give up control of that? Hell no. Yeah. Yeah, you can block it on iPad. I have a blocker on my iPad for YouTube. Yeah. Because I was like so annoyed by it. I was like, this is, it's about making sites to do the right thing by the reader more powerful by the word of mouth, page rank, etc. Yeah. I have an Android. Look, using an ad blocker is like almost as important knowledge as learning how to use a web browser these days, and it's just going to continue to be that way. And I do feel like that's kind of bad for the people who are creating the content, because they're like, that's why I kind of like Brave for a while, is at least trying to give content creators some value, right? People have shown that they will just take and take and take, and they don't give back. The people have also shown, there's a really great study. People have shown that they are, so there's a study, it was in Saving Capitalism, and there was a study that talked about the whole trickle down thing. And if you get it, you're going to give to somebody else. Or if you're fortunate, you're going to share it. And they completely destroyed the idea. I think it was a Stanford study. And this is related to the reader thing. They did a Stanford study. I think it was Stanford. And they did 45, 50 people or something like that. And they gave half of the people double the money, and the rest of them not the same amount of money. And you should see the video. By after the one person who got the head start was destroying everybody else, by about the middle of the game, they were paternalizing and they were talking condescendingly and like, hey, I'm doing pretty good. And they had completely and totally forgot that they got a head start. And the worst part was, out of every single participant that they viewed, and I think it was in the 40s, it might have been more, every single participant said that they deserved to win. Every one of them, even though they started with double the cash, every single one of them said that they deserved to win, and they all won. And basically it just shows that human nature says that we rationalize, all humans, not me, you, everybody, that this study found that humans have a tendency anyway to rationalize them deserving what they're getting. And that means that they're less likely to pay for what they got for free, or to share it with somebody else because they feel fortunate they had it in the first place, because they feel like, human beings, unfortunately, we feel entitled automatically. So if you get 50 hours of, me professionally going through the whole entire thing, and you can't afford $2 a month, yes, I'm going to guilt you, for all of the content that I provide over the course of the year, and, of the whole year, then you'll find a way to make yourself okay with it. And that's just the way human beings are. And the reason I bring it up at all is because authors, content creators, will often try to take away the control from the reader, but ultimately content creators have got to figure out a way to make stuff with the reader as a priority in mind, and have their priorities first, and then figure out what to do with that. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if it's going to be a paywall. You know, there's going to be some ways that we're not going to be able to put paywalls up. So let's say somebody makes a better site than another person, and that site is for money and the other one isn't. Which one are you going to use? You're going to use the free one every time. So I whitelist the ones I want to use. Radio podcast, yes. The blow away the ads every 2 seconds, yeah. A sidebar, that's fine. It's not destroying my experience, yeah. And you should have control over the ads. That's another thing too. I think you should have control over how the ads play, and whether you want to have ads. But you know, that's that. If we did that, there wouldn't, the current system. If everybody did that, there would have to be funded some other way, and that's where that comes from. Let's see. The big one that they worked on is integrated ads into the content. Make a video sponsored by, yeah, and that's how we used to do things, right? So in the old days, we used to say, I'm going to talk about a thing that I believe in, and that is still going. I think that we're going to go back to that, because you won't be able to ignore that. Influencers are already doing that. Influencers, their content is the ad, so you just don't get anything if you don't listen to their ad, right? And I don't particularly, there's other ways to fund it too, you know, such as doing things outside of it that are not related to it. Anyway, so that was a big sidetrack. I'm going to go ahead and take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and finish the book section on weighted importance. We'll talk about rule orders and stuff. These are some big ones. Hopefully we can get through them pretty fast, but that's about it. And so yeah, I'm going to go ahead and just do the break thing away. Let's see, away. I'm going to say like 11:45. Let's do that. 11:45. Design beginner boost. So who gets the power? I don't know. One topic though, huh? All right. Any Windows driver signing? Hell no. Yep, I'll be right back. All right, I think we can get going again. Let's go check in the peanut gallery. Do you guys even know what that is? How's it going? Hi. Stream over here. Hey, hi. Oh wow, I like totally messed up my size. Look at that. What the heck? There we go. 100%. That's weird because that's 100%. What have I done? I think I changed one of my font types. I did. I changed it so all my fonts have to be the same. I think I broke my web browser. Messing with it. Look at it. Look at it. It's like all messed up. Because I want to control, right? But this is what part of what I'm talking about. If you think that you have control over an application and that you can change the size, you're going to breaking the application. And it's going to be so annoying to be like somebody who made this Twitch Stream Manager to get it right? So that all the things look good together, no matter how much people are resizing things and changing things up. So it's a fun topic. This is a sec here. You make a video on bias completion? I did not yet. I have lots of videos on that, but I haven't got a specific one right now. All right, so let's pick up where we left off, and we'll let the book kind of keep us on track. Books are good for that, so let's stick with that. So I talked about using import to override a rule, or property rule, whatever you want to call it. Rule order. After all the style sheet sources have been sorted by priority, and after all the linking has been done, then we get the order. The last one wins. So in this case, green would win, right? So that's it. Using rule order for fallbacks. Many CSS properties are tried and true and supported by all browsers. However, there are always useful new properties emerging that take a while to be implemented. It is common for one to have a fallback, and this is interesting. So I've seen this used a bit. Most of the code that I write for web is not critical enough to have a fallback other than for fonts. But this idea, so let's say you had a color, you had a web browser. This isn't a real issue, but let's say if you had a color and it did not support colors that had letters, say, then you would have color, whatever hashtag, and then the numbers, the hexadecimal numbers for red, and then the one right after that would be color red, and then it would use red, right? But there's some pluses and minuses to that. It is common for just one or two browsers to support a new feature, blah, blah, blah. Fortunately, there are a number of ways to fall back to non-supported browsers. The most straightforward method takes advantage of browsers' built-in behavior, blah, blah, blah. Border image and tried and true border property. Supporting browsers uses the image because it is the last rule in the stack. Non-supported browsers use a solid border, but stop there and they get to the border image property they don't understand. So let's say you had the ability to use an image for your border, but if your browser doesn't support it, you want to fall back to just this plain old border here. By the way, that technique is a part of progressive enhancement. That means if the browser supports it, have something that works. That's cool and extra. But if it doesn't, make sure you do something for the fallback, and that includes not having JavaScript support. If you're making web pages that are not applications and they don't fall back to a safe version of text that does not depend on JavaScript, you're doing it wrong. That is against the principle of progressive enhancement. So here we go. Here's all the stuff here. So you can import. This is another thing that's actually relatively new. Import. I can't believe she put an import in there. I have to stop right now and find out if you can use import. I don't think it's supported in modern browsers yet. This book is overall has been pretty outdated, and I'm going to go check on that. That's very recently added, if I remember right. CSS import. I might be confusing it with JavaScript. HTML import is going to be cool too. This is coming. This hasn't happened yet, but when this comes, it's going to be really cool. Yeah, I can't wait for HTML import to come. Why is my font so messed up? I did it to myself. I'm going to go fix it right now. I did. I changed it right here. Wait, did I have Firma before? No, I had Fira. I think I had Fira Sans. Let's do default. Default, not 16 for sure. 16 is the thing. Wait, what is the default? Does it have a different default? No. Fine. All right. That's much better. Okay. So, so that's not it. We're looking for import as in CSS. I might be confusing it. It is right. Yeah. Because I know you can import fonts and stuff. We're going through learning web design from Jen Robbins. It's a pretty standard text. It's somewhat outdated though. Yeah. So, and anyway, CSS at rule import. Oh, okay. Then I've obviously misremembered this. So, yeah, this has been around forever. It is old. Yeah, I was gonna say, I was confusing it with HTML import. Yeah, HTML import is a new thing. HTML import and the node import that got kind of adopted by the latest version of JavaScript, which is now part of standard JavaScript, modern JavaScript. That's what I was mixing up. So forgive my diversion there. Yeah, import's always been a part of CSS, no duh. All right. What else we have here? So importing a URL for a CSS thing, and then this, although you could do that with a link as well. And then we have the inline one. So this one comes last and wins. Also, it's an inline style, so it wins. When the browser first parses the file, it gets to the imported style sheet first. We talked about that. The box model. Now this really confuses people. And I want to talk about the box model a lot. This is one of the things to this day that even though I've studied it a lot, it still confuses me every time I go through it. So let's do the box model. Where is my CSS? Where did my TP go? Why is my history not getting saved? All right, here we go. So let's do box model. All right. No, yeah, I was going to say, most people reset, they overwrite it, right? Yeah, that's why I want to talk about it. The box model gets more complex each year. With different layouts and engines being added, at least you can switch elements between inline and block at will now. Yes, and if you're a beginner, this can be really, really daunting. And I imagine that this book, well, we have a lot of experienced people here. I imagine that this book could be maybe a little dated on this particular point. So I kind of want to go over this. So first of all, what is the box model? The box model, well, I'm going to read it. She's probably got a better statement of it than I could say. It's how things are viewed. All the elements of the DOM are essentially boxes, and how are those boxes viewed? as long as we're talking about big CSS, it's appropriate to talk about the cornerstone of formatting, the box model. The easiest way to think of the box model is that a browser sees every element on the page as a box, both inline and block. Inlines are the things that go like this, so every letter, literally every word and letter is like an inlined thing. And then you have blocks, and blocks are like, the pieces that go on there, and div. So it's not directly this, but it's kind of like the difference between span and div, which we did talk about a long time ago. So everything can be considered a rectangular blocks. You can apply properties to the borders, margins, padding, backgrounds, and all that, rounded corners, all that. And we're going to go into more detail in chapter 14, it looks like, but you need to understand that this is a thing. And see, here's all the little boxes she's got like called out. So we have a paragraph is a box, a word is a box, a span is a box, an italic is a box. And so it's all about the boxes and them fitting those boxes together. And I guess we're not going to talk about it the way I wanted to. I kind of want to jump ahead to section 14. I do. I'm going to anyway. I want to keep this conversation together. So I don't know how deeply she's going to go into it. Here it is, section 14. She's like she really like trolls you by giving you stuff early and then like saying, but we're going to talk about it until later. So this is the box model, and we might have to jump through and do 14 all together right now. All the other CSS stuff, it like almost makes no sense until you understand this. So I'm going to jump ahead. So I described the box model. Okay. Boxes for backgrounds and stuff. So you have the outer edge, you have the border, and you have the inner edge, and then you have the content. And the reason I want you to see this is because this is what we see when we go look at layout in the tab on our web browser. Box sizing, border box, yes. Makes the ultimate box size, the size including both padding margin in addition to the actual content of the box. Yeah, it's essentially a simplified model for computerized typesetting, yes, which has evolved to be forced to work responsibly for web articles and web applications. Yes, totally true, and that's kind of the part of the problem. So let's first of all talk about this, and let's go see how it looks in your web browser. It's more fun when you're exploring it. So when you click on layout, you can see the box model. And it shows you have a margin and you have the border. In this case, I have a 0 with border and padding. So padding is the distance between the content and the outer border. And then you have a margin, and it highlights over here, and the margin is the distance between that and everything around it. And that's all nice and well. Box sizing, content box, which is probably something we're going to need to change. And then we want to talk about before we get to that. So yeah, box sizing is border box, right? See, this a responsive website, that is rare. For offset printing, actually print out the front and paste the font and paste it onto the template. Wow. So this is the key right here. So it looks like content box is the default, and we're going to go verify that. But what they're talking about is what I want to get to, and that almost everybody, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but everybody these days pretty much sets box sizing to border box right away, because it's more intuitive. So let's read about the differences, because I don't want to confuse you. It's better to have one best way to do it, I think. Let's do this. So yeah, the content area, the inner edge, the padding, the border, the margin, the outer edge, kerning and stuff is something different. I love kerning, by the way. Specific box dimensions, the width, length, percentage, or auto, the height, box sizing. Okay, so this is what I really want to talk about. The major browsers began supporting the box sizing property in 2011 and 2012, and that's really everybody. That's all you need to know about. And so for browsers released prior to that, there's an excellent prefix. Web, don't bother. It's box sizing's been around forever. Let's go prove it. So let's go to can I use box sizing? So box CSS box sizing, globally supported in 98.97% of browsers without a prefix. So you just can use it. And you probably do want to use it. All right. So by default, the width and height of a block element are calculated automatically by the browser. That's the default auto value. And this is like, we're talking about everything is a box, right? We haven't talked about block elements yet. And that's what we're going to have to go back and cover in order to do this right in the right order. However, you can use the width and height properties to make the content area of an element specific width and height. Unfortunately, this is where the problem comes in. Setting box dimensions is not simply just dropping those properties in your style sheet. You have to know exactly which part of the element of the box you're sizing. There are two ways to specify the size of an element. The default method, introduced way back in CSS1, which is called content box, applies to the height and width of the content box. This means that the resulting size for the element will be the dimensions you specify plus the amount of padding that have been added to the element. No. Just say no. It's horrible because you don't know it's going to add it to the element. It's like you want to precisely say, I want this thing. So I'm not even going to talk about this anymore. You just need to use border box. Okay. And let's get back on track. So where were we? We were on the big concepts. And we got past this, right? So we're going to get back to box type, but I just wanted to show you because she kind of left us hanging there. I7 did a high school assignment, compared PNGs rendering across browsers. Oh my gosh. It was JPEGs and GIFs all the way. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is now. That's all changed. It changes every day. Almost every day. So here's a quick history of CSS. CSS1 came out in 96. 2 in 98. 3 came out with HTML5 around the same time in what? 20 into modules that each address features, animation, layout, blah, blah, blah. Is on it. Each module is on its own track. I did not know that. Modules have their own level numbers. Need more big all-encompassing CSS versions. You won't believe how many individual specifications are in the works. For an overview of the specification in its various states, go to CSS current work. And we were there the other day. I'm not inclined to do it right now. All right. So for some reason, we're switching over to selectors because Jen says so at this point. Hey, this is a good chance to show you a handy style rule shortcut. Okay. If you ever need to apply the same style property to a number of elements, you can group the selectors into one rule separated by commas. Okay, we knew that. Just put commas after them, and then all of them get the same style. Not a problem. You should never do this too, by the way. That's an anti-pattern. You should do the individual ones. So that, I mean, I know it's bigger, but it's easier to understand. And these days it's going to get squished down anyway. I strongly believe that's an anti-pattern. Now we'll talk about that later when we get into properties. Okay, what are we on? Let's see, CSS units of measurement. This chapter grades the ground with units of measurement. Okay, we're going to talk about units. Units is a huge rabbit hole, but we have to talk about it. It's so hard to talk about, but we have to talk about it. I'm trying not to discourage you, but you really have to have this conversation. There have been like wars fought over CSS units. Anybody who's been in CSS for any amount of time knows what I'm talking about. So yeah. Let's talk about units. And I want everybody engaged in this conversation if we can get it, because this is a big one. CSS units are how you measure those boxes, how big they are, right? How big is the line? How big is the box? How big is the span, the div, whatever. And this is not even all of them. There's more now. All right. You're like, which unit do I use? I spent weeks, actually. There was one when I was going through, it was off and on for about a week. I went through all of these when I was coming back to web development in about 2014. And I kept looking, I was like, there's millimeters now? There's inches? Wait, pixels are all messed up because there's different kinds of pixels now. There's like pixels that have lots of information in them and they are not an actual pixel. And there's, like Mac came out and just screwed the pooch with the pixel thing. They said, we're going to do whatever. And then we have this big waging war between absolute units and relative units. And the war has gone back and forth in many ways. And the absolute units people are now saying, well, pixels are now relative because it depends on what your default pixel size is. And to this day, this is still a massive raging battle. And let's see, that is bad design. Just pick one. I don't care that people have their differences. Just one, please. The problem is, I like to use rem and px. That's me. Elsie, you and I are kindred souls. I'm a rem and px person myself. Absolutely. Well, how do you stay responsive for absolute units? Right. So we're gonna have a lot of people fight here. So as people are already starting to do, which is good, just be respectful. The reason there is a fight, if you're just starting out, you're trying to get your bearings, like why are people even fighting about this, is because of responsive design. So we talked earlier on, your website should be viewable on anything, right? So it depends on what the device is, right? So you can't have an application adapt in size if it doesn't have some sense of relative pixels. But in some cases, if you have relative pixels, like in a canvas, like we've been talking about, you have to have the exact number of pixels. Otherwise, it won't render because you're rendering raster images. So the answer is kind of it depends. But there is also a lot of argument about what the best practice is, and most of them exist for legacy reasons. Most of them are not used. Some exist for specific use cases. Some are not fully supported. So the Vue VH is one of the big ones that I like to use, but it's whether it's supported or not is a different question. So what even are the units? We're going to go through the units and then we're going to individually look at all the units. It's going to be very laborious, but you have to do it to make an intelligent decision. And the first thing you need to know going into this is you need to know what you're dealing with. If you're dealing with something that can relatively resize on its own and not lose anything, lose resolution or lose meaning, then you want to stick with a relative, something that's relative. And there's lots of those. And what are they relative to is the big question, right? So, Elsie mentioned rem, which is relative to the font size of the entire page, whereas EM is relative to the size of the encapsulating object around it, its parent. It's in relation to the thing that contained it. And the problem is that when you do any sort of resizing and stuff, your relative images, your relative units don't always hold true to where they might want to be, and so you get problems. And then you have complications with when you start talking about media queries, which tell you how wide a thing is. Those are almost always done in pixels, even though, and they're actually, I read a thing about this. I don't know if this has changed. It was 3 years ago, but the part of the engine that calculates width actually is more accurate when it uses pixels than it would be if you were to convert it into REMs or REMs or something else. And so at the time, the best I could find was, use relative units for as much as you can, and then except for media queries, and those should be done in PX. And I'd really love to hear what you other people here have to say about that. We're going to read what Jen has to say about that. But this is a very, very hot topic. Just make everything in SVG. Hey, Grand Jenny. Why not? So I want to let's look at these different units as we go, and we'll take a peek at it. So px is the one that's been around the longest. That's supposed to be the number of pixels. A pixel is defined as equal to 1/96 of an inch in CSS3. The problem with this is that that's not accurate. If you use pixels on a Mac, it's not what you think. It's not an actual pixel. It's 1/96 of an inch in CSS3. I don't even think they're implemented that way. Does anybody know? CM for printing, right? I've never seen media queries done in anything other than pixels. Physical monitor size. Yeah, I don't think it is. I don't think it is. I do it as well. I actually made one that used rem for a while. But okay, so here's why it matters, people. So if you're a beginner, you're still trying to hang with us. You can see this one doesn't show it. There's a plugin. Where's my plugin? I must have been a plugin. You can usually see the pixel dimensions up here. And there's all kinds of tools for changing changing the width here. Oh, there you go. Here's one that's telling you the change of the overall thing. I wonder if that's... Oh, there it is right there. There it is. 116. So 116 by... Oh, that must not be. That must be the specific thing that's selected. Yeah, it is. It is. We need to select something like the whole document. Let's set the HTML. There we go. Then let's go down and see what our layout is now. 1004. All right, let's do 38, 22, 18. That's good. So you see that? You can see the width there, and that's going to come in handy later. I promise. All right, this is a tough topic. I'm getting kind of tired. Can we go back to Pika's? You used to be able to do that. Yeah. I used EM in the past, but never heard of CM. Centimeters, yeah. So that's another thing. So there are some of these things you might want to have differently if you're making a media. You can make media queries that are for printables, and I've done that before. I used an entire CSS media query just for printing cards from my card game. So you would go to the card game page and see it on the web, but if you hit print, it would put it on the page in a way that it printed out and you could cut it out and make a card out of it. And so it had a completely different style sheet, and I didn't think to use these different units here, but that might have been helpful. So let's think about that. So pixels are defined to be 1/96 of an inch. Inches are inches, millimeters are millimeters, cms. I have never seen anybody use inch, millimeter, or centimeter in anything. Q, never seen it. Points, I have seen points used. Commonly used in print design. And picas, there they are. Points are all units common to print design. Picas and points for print design stuff. So I always imagine that any of this stuff might get used in your media query for print. But I don't know. I've never seen it. If anybody has any experience with that, let me know. No print style sheets. Oh yeah, I do print style sheets all the time. I mean, I did anyway. Drop the empirical units. No offense, just one is easier. I don't know, man. That's the way they call it. And then you have all the relative units, and the relative units are pretty solid, and they've been around a while. This one has. EM is the dominant one. The problem with EM, and there's actually a really good blog post. I wonder if I can find it. It's called The Problem with EM versus REM. I don't know if I can find it. Mostly used for printing style sheets. Yeah. Setting margins and stuff, right? CSS tricks. The Great Debate. This is the one. This is the book. This is the article I read. Yeah, this is the same one. I'm pretty sure this is the same one. So, and fractional leagues for my style sheets. What is an EM? An EM is a unit of typography equal to the current specified point size. 1 EM equals 20 pixels. If a selector was font size of 20 pixels. Okay. Now that's relative though, and that's really important. Yeah. And REM doesn't change. So REM is always whatever the font size is set for the whole page. whatever the font size is, REM matches it. And the font size is always set in pixels. I've never seen it set in anything but pixels. So then you have EMs can be used to declare font size. In fact, it's the best practice. I don't understand why you would do this. 2EM, what does that even mean? So what is the actual size here? It means it's 2 times the font size. That's not even true. Because it's 2 times whatever that is in. This is bogus. That explanation is totally bogus. So yeah, it is supposed to be the width of an M. That's what it's supposed to be. So the width of one character, if an M were made into a square, what size would it be? And that's why it's called an M. So an X height, approximately the height of lowercase x in the font. Didn't know about that one until today. If I did, I totally forgot about it. REM is the root EM, so this is equal to the EM size of the root element. This is nice because this is relative, but it's only relative to the entire page. So like if I zoom in, everything with an REM zooms in at the same amount. It's not relative. If you do that with this, it's supposed to trickle down so that the EM is relative to the thing containing it. But if the font of the thing that contains it got bumped up, then when it says 1.2, it'll be 1.2 of the bumped up size. And so it will be relative and it will also bump up. And it's not always dependable that way. CH is the current font size. Never used it. I've used these a lot and I love these. These are great, but they weren't supported very much. And I want to go check them right now. These are the new hotness. So this is the viewport width unit equal to 1/100th of the current viewport. So this is relative to how big your window is. And that's really awesome because it's basically a percentage of your viewport size. And that is really great because a lot of times you can't tell how big your viewport is. And that's it for you right there. Viewport minimum unit equal to the value of VH, whichever is smaller. Oh, right. So if whichever one is smaller, so landscape and that kind of thing. I want to see how well VH and W are supported these days. REM all the things. I know I REM all the things myself. How's it going? How people get in that mess and why? Yeah. In a relative manner means you don't need the overriding stuff with classes and nested CSS selectors. Yes. The reason that I think EMs are falling out of favor really drastically is because that the components that are making it up can't be interchanged. So then you take out a component and put it someplace else, and because it's an EM, all of the sizes get broken because now it's a different size. Because it's relative to where it is and what it's included in. So that's bad. So REM is what everybody uses. I've been finding. You can now write media queries with VH and VW. I wish you could. I think anyone else thinks about people who talk about REM, about REM, rapid rolling eye movement, rapid eye movement. Yeah. Or the band REM. REM mark from Basic. Oh my God, Jenny. That's pretty funny. So let's go see if we can even use them. VH. I'm pretty sure these are solid now. Yeah, they are. Thank God. I mean, look at that. 97% of all browsers use it. Nice. This is super good news because the last time I was doing development on this, it would have been, yeah. I started doing heavy development using VH in 2013 and 14, and it had just come out. And so I wasn't permitted to use it. I made a thing called Fumble, actually. I'm really proud of it. It basically, it's like a touchpad that you can put icons in and it just opens up, and it's always the right size no matter what. It's always the right size. And I used VH for that. And I realized that nothing supported it practically. And I did that in 2013, 2014. So this is really exciting. This means that we can use VH and all the V stuff which is really important in this modern age of, component-oriented design stuff. So I'm really glad. So what is the takeaway here? Unless you're doing print, the only units you need to remember are pixels for very precise measurements, REM for very precise measurements that are not pixel related, and VW, VH, VinMin, and VinMax. V8. So really, these are very rare. So this one, this one, and these two. And honestly, you can be fine not using any of the other units. And that's not even all of them, by the way. There's still more that are not used. They're just really, really esoteric and weird. I might actually experiment with using these actual measurements in my print style sheets at some point. But I'm not going to get into that. There's another one. There's like a visual pixel one. What is that one? You guys remember that one? What's the other pixel one? More or less back to a normal sleep schedule, more or less. Yeah. Let's see. I heard that the guy used BASIC for those little graphic. Yeah. My Twitch comment here. The new popularization of ultra-wide screens make media queries when using the units pretty important. Right. Usually you can do percentage and max width for your outermost container without the constraint. I can't see a way around using media queries. Yeah. So you can use, that's true. I'm glad you mentioned that. When CH and X are appropriate. I don't know. I don't know when those are. But you should almost never use PX. Display sizes are huge nowadays. Well, there are some cases where PXs are needed. Canvas comes to mind, and media queries. So this is the one. Can we finally put to bed that pixels don't need to be used for media queries anymore? I'm speaking from old information I had in like 2015. So yeah, I think media. I've heard people talking about media queries using percentages recently. Ultra wide monitors. Some games can't handle it. Right. I love ultra wide, but yeah. So the canvases, anything to dealing with canvas has to use pixels because that they just cannot deal with resizing very well at all. But the media query percentages are a relatively new thing that I've heard about, and I am just curious if that's a thing. What was up with the X unit? X height, approximately the height of lowercase x. I don't know how new that one is. Has that one been around for a while? Why would you even do that? I guess, see, because you want to have it like not how all the leaders come out, right? I'm trying to think of why I would do that. I'm not a designer. Well, apparently you can't use X. Or can you? I need the units. It doesn't even pull up as a unit. It doesn't. Where is it? Do I need to just put X unit? Probably put X unit. X unit. There we go. Oh, all right. Wow. Look at that. X's are all over the place. All right. Did not know that. I've only used PX for media queries, so really interested in what can be used now. Yeah, me too. Pixel. The only time I've used pixels is for Canvas. But Canvas you can do with a height and width of the canvas itself without having to use like a pixel CSS thing. So you can get, I could drop pixels for that. But media queries that tell you how wide something is and what to do at a given width, those have always been standard in pixels. Let's do a little bit of research on this since we're doing this. Media query percentage. VH and VW. Yeah, I think you can use VH. I think you can. I don't know though. I don't know. I don't know. Doris, where are you headed?
My mom's.
Oh, okay.
And I'm gonna get water.
I'm gonna be asleep.
I'm taking the dog.
When you come back.
Okay.
Bye. Do I need to turn the stove off or anything?
No, don't turn the stove off.
Leave the stove on?
Will go bad.
Gotcha.
If you can check on it, make sure if it looks a little thick, you can put a little water in, but that's it.
Alrighty. Ultra wide monitors, you might need to use CSS widths and feet in yard. These days, media queries, it's actually not media query, it's media, duh. Derp. Media queries resolution feature. Ooh. Allows a media query to be set based on device pixels used in per CSS unit. You seeing this? Look at that. Oh, it's kind of like got weird support. While the standard uses min/max resolution for this, some browsers support the older non-standard device pixel ratio. Yeah. Me 2 feet. Oh, jeez. Can you use feet now? It's going to happen. They're going to have feet at some point. I hate device pixel ratio. Can I just say, isn't device pixel ratio the thing that broke everything? That was like, that was an Apple thing, right? Oh. It's like they changed the dimensions of the pixel relatively. And I was like, really? You're making pixels relative? That was like a 2014 thing. Oh my gosh, look at this stuff. You could use DPI before? Just no. Just no. Media queries. Okay. You can use media queries. Yay. Everything can use media queries pretty much, apparently. But what do you measure your media queries in? Ratio for embedded videos. Yeah, it was. Well, that's all. We had a big debate about that, right? We had the actual width and height, and then we had the CSS value for the same thing, right? Media capture from DOM elements. No, that's not what we're doing. Media capture. No. I really want to get the answer to this before we leave it, because I would love to get rid of pixels in my media queries. Let's do a little research. Trying to decide here. My brain's going to mush, but all right. So, can I use VH for media queries? So let's see what the internets has to say. Good old Stack Overflow. I don't know if this is the best resource for this. Yeah, you can use Calc now too for stuff, right? Oh man, Calc is so cool. No. What? Calc is calculating a new min width based on. Look, they're using VH there, but this is probably the problem we're gonna go see right now. Calc and media queries has a bug in 2019. This is relatively recent. Changing your media query to Calc proves this. It changes to green when the width becomes 5,517. It looks like it's a bug. I don't know if I would use it. No workaround. I don't know, man. That's Calc. That's more about Calc than it is about VH. Using CSS Viewport units for font sizes. So we're talking about VH and VW. I really want to adopt them. Oh, hey, look, it's a website I can't read because it's JavaScript only. What a wonderful world. Oh, it's dev.pieceofcrap.to, full of like the crappiest developers on the planet talking about absolutely newbie things on a site that can't be read unless you have JavaScript enabled. Do you want to see how much I do not like anything on dev.to? I absolutely hate this platform. It's the biggest excuse of anything. It's like absolute crap. It's worse than, it's almost as bad as hacker news. Seriously, it's so bad. I keep running into bad. Hopefully this will be different. Let's read. All right, so a CTO and software developer. It's the packed publishing of websites. It kind of is. Look, I'm sorry. I got no love for dev.to. I can't sugarcoat it. I hate them. I don't hate them as people. I hate the bad information and the bad design practices that they espouse. Medium for developers, some are great. It's medium for, which is exactly why it's a disaster, because it's a bunch of newbies like self-confirming all of their errors over and over again. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, exactly. That's the problem. That's why it's so bad. It's the same as Hacker News. Hacker News is the same thing. You know, we need to build a knowledge net so that people who can be trusted can share each other's information without being beholden to any particular platform or you know, somebody who like raises the green light. I actually participated here for a while, and I kept correcting things. I was correcting things all the time as nicely as I could, and just wasn't happening. And yeah, look, you know what? I like amateurs, okay? Amateurs, I want to help them. But you know who the people who shouldn't be helping amateurs are? Other amateurs. You should have professionals, and I'm not even a professional. I won't consider myself a professional web developer. I've done it professionally. I was Nike's webmaster, but I don't consider, but having a bunch of newbies help other newbies and tell them what they should do is the wrong thing to do. You should have people who have experience in the profession, find them. Get on their Twitter, follow their knowledge net. There's a quote actually that I'm going to share with you right now. Since this is a little bit of a tangent, so I'm going to put a thumbtack in this, but I do want to share this with you. People who don't know are more likely to share. True story. All right, so, and this is something I really want you to watch out for. This actually, it's not just for me. I'm gonna actually cite T.J. Holloway-Chuck, who created Express. He's one of the gods of web development. He abandoned Node for Go and famously went to Apex, and I actually have him in my quotes list. So github.com/rbxrob, and you can click on where's my quotes? Oh, it's down here somewhere. I don't know. I have to have a link to quotes. I don't have a link yet. I'm gonna have to do that. Oh, I can link to quotes. Quotes. Nope. I'm gonna have to do master quotes. Master quotes. I don't know. I have to make a link. I don't have a link to my quotes. Here, I'll just do this. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm still working on stuff. I'm just moving it all around. So here's the quote. Those who know do not speak. Those who speak do not know. I didn't know it was a Taoist thing. What? Jenny, thank you. I'm going to put that in here. So this was his take, and he was writing about Quora, actually. And he said, the level of technical content quality is inversely proportional to the prolificness of the author. This is why it is so difficult and valuable to uncover those few who actually know what they're talking about, because they do it every day for hours a day and who are willing and able to write about it. Now, I'm going to use this. This is going to be front page. This will be on the front page of AFK Works when we come up with our specification, because as a knowledge worker, we have to fix this problem. We have to get people who know to share. And right now the problem is the people who know aren't sharing, and the people who don't know are sharing like crazy. I know. It's a quotes thing, Lunmar. Thank you. Oh, fine. You guys backseat driving is so hard, but you're absolutely right. Let me go fix that. So, RBX Rob quotes held. Where was it? We call it money. Some sort of incentive structure, right? I know people who know stuff or in the industry. I don't know if money's going to do it though. Wait. Oh, strong opinions held for a week. All right. So, it is what it is. I'm not trying to mob rule. Yeah. There goes your PR. Oh, you had a PR. Sorry, Coltrane. Wait, give me the Taoist thing again, Jenny. I gotta go find it. By things people wrote. I learned a lot of things from people things wrote too. The difference is that I was able to kind of sense which ones knew what they're talking about and which ones didn't. And this is something I fight against all the time, because I never, ever, 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 and I've told you the story, guys, the story before. I don't want to be the guy, the director of web technology for a university who's never made a freaking web page, and yet I am responsible for creating all the curriculum for the group. That's a true story. And is it Lao Tzu? And I don't want to be that guy. And it's really easy, because if you get you can tell as I'm going through the book that I've been disconnected from web development. I'm not doing it every day. And I don't claim to be a person on that. Because why? Because your brain is a CPU. It's not a storage device. I'm going to make a whole video on that. And it's more important that you be able to get input into your brain quickly than it is to make sure your brain can store 4 gigabytes and constantly stuffing stuff in there. But so anyway, this is, that was a quote I want to do. I guess it's time. We're going to talk about Elixir another day. Elixir is a great language. It's one of the few languages I would really like to learn. Okay, let me add it to the quote, and then we can move on. So, let's see. Those who speak do not know. Those who know do not speak. That means I know nothing, because I'm speaking all the time. The difference is I tell you that I don't know anything, and I let you like set me straight. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, I know nothing. I know nothing. There's a quote from that yoga series, Enlighten Up. I love that. It's not Rob. It's from Lao Tzu. Yeah. Did you guys see the documentary on Taoism, Confucianism? Pretty interesting stuff. It's a really great one. Yep. So, git add -a, git commit. I'm trying to do all the steps so you guys can see them. Added Lao Tzu quote. So, do not bother to do that. Which one? Create a bash script to add quotes automatically. Oh, I can, absolutely. I have done it. How many times have I done that? It's like I have a script for everything. The problem is that I reorganize all my quotes. I do. I reorganize stuff because I'm trying to get to the optimum organization. It's probably never going to happen. Editing a quote though, that's more annoying. What are you talking about? Editing a quote? I would just, the only way is I would do, it's really easy for me to edit my quotes. I just do a thing and it just opens the quotes up and I go edit it. And then I just edit it VI. I don't want to do anything besides that. And if you want to see me do that kind of stuff, you know, you have to watch me off stream, when off task here. Let's get back on task. We are kind of winding down, but I want to get through the CSS stuff. So I think we still haven't got an answer here. Let's, oh, I remember why, because I got all triggered because the answer came from deb.to and I was unable to perform further from that moment. Let's go see if I can get my restraints back. So let's say this, let's do TP. What are the best CSS units to use? Ready, fight. Adequate. So I'm like, yeah, but Rob was adding an annotation. Oh, right. So I've changed the topic officially. Maybe we'll get a few people in here to argue with us. So of the units that we've discussed, I'm just going to recap in case you're coming in, you just clicked on this and you're coming here. We hit this unit section in the book, during the CSS, and the age-old question about what are the best units to use has come up again. It's been one of the great fights in design from the very dawn of time. You can find stuff all about it. And I'm just trying to get checked in and see what the new hotness is. And so far, this is our conclusion. And you can take an exception to this if you want to, and please justify it. And we can do a little bit of research. I'm going to do a little research on media queries here. But the takeaway is that the main elements you should be using today are rem, VW, and VH, all of which are widely supported and have been for years. There is still some opportunity to use PX, but for the most part, you should avoid PX unless you really can justify it. And one of the places traditionally that it's really been justified to use PX has been in media queries. And so we have been debating and researching, because relatively recently, the thinking that seems to have changed to say you should use VW and VH and percentages for your media queries now. And we're trying to see whether that's true or false. These other elements for print CSS are probably very relevant, but I haven't done any print CSS in a long time. And if somebody has any insight into that, let us know. Otherwise, unless you're making like a card game, you can cut out. I don't imagine those are going to be very relevant. So the long story short about units, I'm going to put this out there and you can rip me up about it, is just use rem, which is equivalent to the font size of the page. It means it's relative, but it's relative to the size and scale of the page. That's it. It's not relevant to its container, which is what makes EM problematic. And then VW and VH, which are relative to the viewport, which are good for any sort of responsive thing. And that one, and it's, these other ones are less relevant. But so obviously you can use any of these, but those are the main ones that we would conclude. And I'm now going to open up the can of worms and go check the chat again. But I'm also at the same time going to research whether or not media queries can reliably done as percentages and VW and VH, so we can permanently lay to rest the beloved PX, which has always been an absolute measurement. And there's been pretty strong debate about whether or not there's ever any case to use it. There's our thing that we were looking for. So let's see here. Arguing over what is right. The new hotness. Look, the universe thinks the unofficial model for Dev 2. The unwise man thinks he knows everything if he has refuge for himself in a corner, but he does not know what he must say in reply if men test him. I'll have to think about that. Green, Jenny, you're just too deep for me today. Thinks he knows everything. He does not know. Is that the refuge? Yeah. Well, okay. Maybe I can get behind that. I don't like it. I don't. The fact that they had the gall to make a site that's supposedly helping people that has to have JavaScript, I will never forgive them for that. Just won't do it. Totally stupid. Stupid decision. Like a fundamentally evil decision that prevents certain people from participating. I don't want anything to do with it. If your community is going to block me and blind people out, I don't give a shit what you have to say. Sorry. All right. Okay. Let's go back. Where was I? I lost my... Oh, it's my cozy winter. That's what I lost. I need the cozy again because I'm getting all spun up. Let's see. I missed the name of the book several times. The name of the book is Learning Web Design from Jen Robbins. It's still a very popular book for texts in college, despite its getting way out of date, which is what these all of these hours of Boost have been. We've for many hours we've been going through this. If you want to go through it and see all the pieces that may or may not be relevant. Still save web pages as PDFs. Yep. Yeah, I agree. That's how I did my cards. We would save it as a PDF, and the PDF looks sharp. I mean, it was like you could print it out. You could print like D&D pages out with it. There's a lot of really cool things you can do with CSS for print, and I think there's a whole chapter on that. So we're going to come back to that. I don't understand how people expect VH to work in media queries because they want the viewport change. Good point. So it would have to be percentages, right, Tavern? Yeah. I'm sure we can get away from using PX and responsive breakpoints, but I'd love to learn otherwise. Yeah. Well, I think you have to use responsive break. If you use VH and VW pixel relative, if you use those things for your elements, then you depend on media queries less and less, right? So I like that. These people, media queries are what allow your page to do different things depending on how wide it is, or high actually. You can think you know everything because you're not confronted by real challenges. That's true too. That's definitely true. You should not be hiding out. You should be seeking out other stuff. I noticed that it's increasing that websites block you if you don't hide JavaScript. Yep. Yeah. Well, we'll find out. Pizza Hut lost the lawsuit against that. So LC is possible is accessible, not just not in links. Yes. It is very possible that they have done the ARIA stuff in JavaScript and it's been still accessible to the blind, but we don't know. We don't know. That's almost always, every time I've checked, it hasn't been. Every single time I've gone in and checked a site, I haven't done it with Dev2, that it didn't have JavaScript support, it also didn't have accessibility. Works without JavaScript. No, it doesn't. It just thinks it likes a bot. It works without JavaScript, and it thinks links a bot. Do I need to make links lie? I need to make links lie. Thanks for that, Green Jenny. If that's true, and it does work without JavaScript, then I'll forgive them, and I'll take it all back. God knows I've done that before. I managed to mix Doxygen and Markdown pages. Ooh, good enough for the full software documentation. Yes. Never heard the site before. Yeah. Media Queries is largely asking the question, is there enough room to cram everything I want onto the page? With working with resolutions is the wrong question. I think you're right. Right? So like I want, yeah. So you want to change the position of everything, right? And not just make it block items. With links, not links, seems to work okay. Interesting. So it doesn't like the other one, huh? That means it's like actively banning LYNX. LINKS is not good for lots of reasons. I don't want to get it right now. Alrighty, let's go back and read this thing from about media queries. Yeah, it doesn't. I guess the idea of using VH for a media query doesn't make sense, right? Makes links. Who knows? I don't know. Where was it? I put where was it? What page was it on? I think it's in here actually. Yeah, here it is. So CSS Viewport units blah blah are extremely useful. For font sizes can be tricky. I would never use a. Would you guys ever use V8, VW, and VH for a font size? I can't see doing that. I mean, again, this is one of those things where you just test stuff out. So I think we can move on and be done with it. Yeah, font size 100 VH and make it as big as the viewport. Hang out tile grids for web apps. Yeah. Yeah, you use VH for tile grids. Nice. Are you doing the tile grids in the grid and CSS grid? Only means the card. So, yeah. Anyway. Media queries to the rescue. See, she's using pixels in the media queries. This is what you normally would see. You normally would see pixels in media queries. To this day, I think you're going to see this a lot. Oh, there's one other place you're going to use pixels. The base font size. Right? Would you guys agree that the base font size should be in pixels, or would you do your base font size in REMs, which would be kind of weird? If you do :root, we're getting ahead of ourselves here, guys. I know, but I wanted to go through this anyway, since we had a lot of people here. So you can set the base font size of the entire page on a DPI, right? So the base font size by default is 16 pixels for everything, right? And I think it's in, you have to put it in root. I don't think it's just HTML. I think you have to put that in the root base font size, if I remember right. If you want to change the base font size for all the REMs in the page, but that is a different thing. I don't think we have sufficient information to make a decision about whether we use pixels or percentages in media queries. Let's see. Pixels or percentages for media queries. There's a big old debate. This is from 2014. Default base font size, whatever the browser prefs are set to, right? But the default is 16. I know it's like, and it changes with scale, right, Jenny? I'm pretty sure that changes with scale. I'm trying to decide on a framework. Use a struggle to understand why I use percentages on media queries while others like Skeleton use pixels for them. I thought responsive meant using percentages, so why would you use pixels? Good question. This is 2014. Pixels for the base, the default is 16, so you need to set unless yes. I very much appreciate explanation. I found it said it depends on the container being adjusted and its contents. Fluid first, percent second. The child of a body. The only thing I would ever use VHW for would be, I had a table that I wanted to dynamically resize. And now that I think about it, I mean, there's lots of, you could have done it with a margin and auto margins, right? And max height and width and stuff. I wanted it to be relative no matter where it was on the page and, you know, related to how big the thing was. But yeah, I imagine there's uses for all of them. Some set it to 10 so they can do easy math. I've heard that. I've heard some set 10 for their PXs so their REMs are better, right? I've heard of it. I've heard of that trick actually. That sounds like heresy. Does anybody else feel that's a heretical thing to do? I can't believe she threw units in this early into the CSS conversation, but we have to have it. You can't avoid the units conversation. Don't we all think in hexadecimal? Maybe you do. Yeah. Some percentages for media queries. I read something in 2014 that said percentages were not the best thing for media queries, and I can't remember why. Guys, Jenny, now you're never gonna let me live that down, right? Because I was beating up the dev.to people. You're absolutely right. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. You're absolutely right. I need to be called on the carpet on that, because I need to give them the benefit of the doubt. And if they're just blocking links, but it's not just that. I participated in a forum and I provided valuable insight, and the threads became so bad, not because of toxicity, but because I just couldn't deal with it anymore. I was like, I have got to look away. I couldn't. It was like, it was taking away from my joy, because these people were they weren't even considering the options. And I know I could have been the wrong one and blah, blah, blah. But I mean, like basic stuff. I can't even remember the one we were talking about. Oh, there was an argument about whether JavaScript should be supported or not. I think that was it. And they were saying JavaScript's in everything, just shut up. And I was like, really? I swear that it was something along those lines. I can't remember. I really can't remember. Let's see. 12 or 24 seem to be useful division. Yes. Most of Reddit and Stack Overflow. I agree. And so I'm not going to blame them. And the reason I bring it up is because let's make a positive angle on this. It's more important that if you find people who know, and I'm not saying me, not particularly for CSS. Obviously, I don't know my CSS, so I'm going through this with you guys. I mean, I know enough, right? But find an expert who deals with it all the time and follow what they say, everything they say. And then ask them. So Brian Ford is the world authority on PEG, and I follow every single thing he says about that. TJ's been the authority on many, many things, so I follow him for many things. I feel like if you can find the authorities and listen to what they have to say, you'd be better off. JavaScript would not be supported by browsers. Would there be any negative consequences after the website learn how to use HTML better? I don't know. It's a complete debate. I keep coming back to that topic about JavaScript, and I don't find several experts. Agreed, Jenny. Agreed. If you can, then sometimes it's hard, right? Because they don't talk. One of the reasons I'm so grateful for this stream is I've found a lot of really amazing experts here, you know, particularly in different industries that I'm interested in. So it's been very, very great. That's larger the content, articles, videos, you should support it without JS. Yes, we're kind of still on that debate topic, but that's good. Good experts disagree with other experts. Completely agree. Know how to ask the best questions, not how to know the answers. Yes, totally. And I think that's probably what rubs me the wrong way from some of those platforms is the people talking act like they know everything. And I'm probably guilty of being that just as bad. So I'm not going to judge them. I'm going to try to stay impartial. Avan, I'll say it depends on the container being adjusted in its contents. Fluid versus I don't see, there's got to be a downside. Is there any downside to using percentages with media queries? It's going to take us forever to get through this book. Because we're going through it in such a laborious way. Same question. Side point. Struggling with the stream 3 times that I got stuck. 1 time had to refresh. Did it really? Is the content there, or is it just YouTube not doing its thing? I hope the content's still there. Yeah, I think she was apologizing to me. Been saw it on Twitch. Okay, thanks guys. Help me isolate that. Same question, 2014. I want to find a new one. Disadvantage. You're still going to need media queries no matter what, right? 600 percentage value is not working. It's going to be hard. I think we're going to have to put a thumbnail on this one and let everybody do some research and figure out whether you should use percentages in media queries or not. Yeah. I've always used pixels, and I'm just going to keep using pixels for now. And I don't have... Oh, Brad's got something to say. Brad's weighing in. Yeah. Right. Same with VH, right? That's why I want to just put it to bed. If pixels are the way to go, then pixels are the way to go, you know? So, as we all know, media queries are... I need my background. I can't read it. As we all know, media queries are responsive design secret sauce. Here are some considerations. Let content determine breakpoints. Yes. Exactly. It's the aspect ratio. I know. That's why. Right. In other words, it seems to me like you wouldn't want a relative measurement for media queries. I'm with you on that. Use major and minor breakpoints. Use relative units. I think that's for everything. Does that mean for the media query? Go beyond width. Use media queries for conditional loading. Do not overboard. Let content determine breakpoints. We know about that. Every time you see the standards, a kitten gets its head bit off. That's funny. Don't use popular device dimensions. Amen, brother. I create ish is to encourage designers to consider the entire resolution spectrum. Yes, agree. Yes. Mobile first, yes. So here we go. Max width. See, now he's got it in EM. He's got it in EM, people. I would never put EM as my max width for a media query. Ever. See, I in 2014, I was using REMs for media queries, and I read something that made me scared. It said, you shouldn't do that. You should use pixels. I'm like, but REMs are great. I like them. Yeah. But this is, that's what I read. Now I remember. I read that whether you use EM or REM for media queries, they're the same. Yeah, that was what I read. I read that EM and REM for media queries are the same, and that was part of the gotcha. Because relative to what, right? What is an EM relative to? The media query isn't embedded in anything to be relative to, right? So the only thing it's relative to is the root font size, and so is REM. finally moving to rems. And the kerfuffle of Bootstrap finally moved to rems. Yes, they did. They moved to rems. Yeah, for the media queries, right? Yep. What was that? Was that 2014, 2015? I mean, container queries. Ooh, yeah. Yeah. Huh. I mean, it's an interesting question. I think we're still on this question, so we can still talk about it. Tailwind has been in rems forever. Yeah. That just, okay, I'm glad you mentioned that, Jenny, because that really puts a light. See, I was doing rems in 2014, and I felt all dirty for doing it because it was like ahead of time and I was like, I mean, I literally remmed all of the things. I even made, I'll have to go find it. I made a whole, I took up one of the plugins that shows you your pixel widths on the screen, and it would show you the percentage rems. I mean, it would show you the exact rem number because I remmed all the things. Like, and yeah, that's 2014, 2015. And then I read that thing about pixels, and it kind of scared me. And I'm now, everything we're reading is rems. And the fact that Tailwind uses rems just tells me that that's where it's at. Right. So what is this particular of our prototype mobile stuff? Right. So yeah, 1 o'clock. Another mobile is first style as a result of smaller, simple, more maintainable code. I mean, I really want to hear what Brad has to say about this. Brad is one of the authorities, in case you don't know. Brad Frost is one of the authorities in the web development world. He has been for a while. It's one of the people you want to listen to when they say something. And so, in fact, what is this site? I should probably give you guys the link. Yeah. This is great. This is going in my links. I need to make an automated thing for this, no doubt. But in the meantime, you shall have it that way. Yeah. I mean, and then it just works enough for your stuff too. And you just kind of like, well, do I really need to go into it? Right. All right. Well, I want to finish this read. I kept track of my breakpoints, so it depends on the design of my major breakpoints. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, look at those variables. He's using Sass. Yeah, he is. Don't fret. We're not using Sass or SCSS. And don't feel like a lesser person if you're not using a CSS framework. Seriously. It's they're kind of going the way of the dodo. Not all, but because of other things. Back to my Sass. No. All right. He's got pixels. You got pixels and your media query, Brad. You're telling us to use rems. I guess you don't mean it, right? Oh, wait. He says avoid it. I should probably read better. Okay. Avoid pixel-based media queries. Use EMs. Yay! CSX grids and flex plus have killed a lot. I completely agree. Foundation Bootstrap, other than the pretty buttons and stuff, is gone, right? Yeah, grid layout is gone. I just used grid to lay out my other site. It was just a dream, particularly when you use grid template. We're going to get to that. Use EMs for media queries. He's using EMs now. I want to know why he doesn't use rems. First, we're already ditching pixels in favors of EMs, rems, and percentages in every other aspect of our styles. So why not carry through with the media query? Because somebody told me that the world would cave in if I did. Yeah, I love grids, man. I love grids. Have you guys seen the Grid Maker, by the way? This is a divergence. Have you seen it? It's so cool. I mean, you don't need it, but it's just really fun. It's really fun to teach beginners too. Yeah, there's a... Where is it? Where is it? CSS Grid. Oh, come on. Where are you? What am I in? Am I in Firefox? Grid Builder. It's still tables in HTML email? Oh my gosh. That's not it. That's not it. Is this it? No, that's not it. Damn it. I lost it. I should have bookmarked it better. I pretty much did, I'm sure. I just don't know which one it is. Damn it, where is it? This is it. All right, so this is it. You guys see this? This is fun. You can go down here and say like side, and it'll give you your grid template over here. Main. It's just really great for showing people how to do grid. If people want to get their head around grid, this is a really, really great tool. But we are way, this is not the big, we are way off topic. I'm so sorry to the beginners. But we're kind of geeking out at this point. Email HTML is like 10 years behind. Yeah. Yeah. Just it expanded until, I love that. Tavern, that's exactly how responsive should be, right? I completely agree. Compiler to make HTML. Oh, I don't know if I'm going to do that. But I can see at least you can do a compiler, right? Transpiler, whatever. All right, let's finish reading what Brad has to say about media queries on rems and EMs, and then we're going to close it up for today. So firstly, we're already ditching pixels in favor of EMs, rems, and percentages. What's the difference between an EM and a rem, by the way? So a rem is hard-coded to be the exact size of the font for the root element of the entire, we talked about elements, right, of the entire thing. And EM is relative to its parent font size. And so they're relative. They're not, rems are more precise. Which is why I'm wondering why he's got an M here. And I remember reading that since media queries are not relative to anything, that was what I read, that you can use EMs instead of rems. So we're going to read about that. Every aspect. So why not carry through on our media query values? Secondly, authoring media queries in relative units allows browsers to adjust the design based on the user's zoom level, resulting in a more pleasant, more accessible reading experience. So that's the answer to using relative values instead of fixed pixels, guys. That's what's going on. But I was told that pixels in that context are relative at one point. So I'm going to listen to what Brad has to say, though. Relative media queries in action. Let's see. It's like Grandpa Vision. Worth reading. EMs have it. Proportional media queries for the win. Why would it be EMs? I got to go read that again. Viewport width isn't the only thing media queries can detect. There are tons of media features. Color width, blah, blah, blah. Sprites for Retina. Worth reading. He didn't convince me on the whole EM versus REM thing. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Oops, wrong thing. Fine. Good old Cloudflare. Hey, I wrote this in 2012. So this is the problem with knowledge, right? It gets out of date. Proportional. Wait. I still like that. This is cool because it shows the evolution that she's had. I still like the notion of metaphorical connection between content-based sizing and layout definitions, and the zooming behavior cited there was always meant more as a side-along example than a core argument. Nevertheless, you should note that the zooming behavior has long since been made consistent in browsers. Thank God. That's the problem I was reading about. That was the problem. It was the zooming behavior. The zooming behavior was inconsistent, and so it was more consistent if you used one of the particular units, and I don't remember which one. Okay, keep that in mind if you cite or otherwise put stock in this post. I never meant to be an absolute prescriptive about EMs as units. Use whatever feels natural and appropriate for your design strategy, and thanks for reading. So pixels are still used because they're now consistent. Because the zooming behavior related to pixels carries over apparently. And that was a long time ago. This was even 2015 when this was written. Cortana responsive design is fluid. This is when everybody was freaking out about responsive design back in 20 whatever. Pixels are lying now. I think it is. I think pixels are lying. I don't know that. We need to confirm that. we just use Gopher create. Based on expectations, 100% equals 1 EM, which equals 1 rem, actually, which is approximately equal to 16 pixels, which is approximately 14 points. Depending on, I mean, that's not a thing. So I want to know why REMs versus EMs. That's what I want to know. I guess EMs would be... I guess you could use EMs if you're considering media queries can be contained. And can you contain a media query? I mean, you know, it's like... I don't know, man. How many media queries is too many? We're getting way ahead of ourselves on this particular thing. Why should you not use RAM unit as media query? You found one. Oh my. Wait, which is that last URL? Damn it. Vera, did you move it again? He's probably not here. He did. He moved last URL. Oh, man. Bad gateway. I'm sad. My last URL stuff is gone. I'm going to have to make my own. Let's see. Why should not use rem unit in media query? Why should use rem unit? That's some good old medium. Well, I mean, you can't read anything anyway. Ah, sigh. I need my cozy. And then I gotta go away. I'll be back tonight at some point, but what does it say? EMs are if you prefer a hierarchy of sizes, fonts, and rims, or if you scale to the base, which is what I want to do. In the CSS stuff pertinent for InfoSec. Not as well. It's getting more so because it's getting more complicated. Yeah, if you get the basics, you probably don't need it. It may help you reverse the website a little bit. Yeah. There's in the CSS as a whole, right? And it's unfortunate because we are going to spend a lot of time on CSS. There's going to be a lot of people doing cybersecurity. It can be way more than you ever need, other than making a cool site that shows off all your cool things you found. Why should not use rem? Barry Peng, the English challenge. Rem means root, Arudium, which means EM is relative to the parent font size, and rem is relative to the root. We already got that. But there are different behaviors when used with rem and media queries. This is what I was talking about. I was right. I'm going to say it 10 times. I couldn't remember where I read about this. I'm going to put this in my bookmarks. I am right now. I'm going to open it up, bookmark it, and done. And then I'm going to go to bed. So this is me in 2014 right here, 37.5 rem like this. How old is this? Is this 2020? Holy cow. So many 0-day CSS attacks. What's wrong with this media query? It's broken. So that's why it's broken. This is why I stopped using rems. Rem means reading. Okay, got it. Default response is 60%. We can change 10%. I don't get it. Okay. But there's a difference in behavior when we use rem. Media queries spec 1.3 says, oh, here we go. This is like really good stuff. Relative length units in media queries are based on the initial value, which means that units are never based on results of declarations. For example, in HTML, an EM unit is relative to the initial size of the font. That's not true. That's not true. That's not true. I don't know how old that spec is, but that's not true. For example, in HTML, an EM unit is relative to the initial value of font size, defined by the user agent, not any styling on the page. Do you guys reading this? That can't I don't think he's reading it right. The EM unit is not relative to the initial value of the font size. It's relative to the value of the containing font size. Beginners are watching this boost and be like, I'm done. I'm not doing CSS anymore. Why do you think I stopped doing front end? So this cannot possibly be what the spec says. I don't believe it. I think it's backwards. I think he has this for rems. About media queries. In media queries. Oh, okay. Thank you, Tavern. Thank you. That's a good catch. Good catch. Good catch. And this, I think this is what we were implying earlier. If you use the EM, it's like relative to what? Well, it's relative to its container. EM is always relative to its container, right? Well, what's the container for an EM and a media query, since media queries are not contained in anything? And in this case, we have the answer. The spec says EMs are relative to the font size as it, existed, which is the same as rem in every other case. Not any styling on the page. Oh, did you see this? It's according to the user agent. That means if you set styles in for the font size, it won't get picked up. Oh, I see what's going on. You see what's going on? Yeah. Because you can change the rem by changing this root font size, but you can't change the EM unit. The EM unit will always be tied to the root of the page. Exactly, Tavern. So that's why. Mystery solved. I feel better. I mean, we can read it. We can read the rest of it, but that makes me feel much better. Now I know what was going on. Now I know why Brad was using it. Okay, so that means root EMs are fixed, but they're fixed relative to the page font size, which can be changed. The EM unit in a media query is tied to the root of the user agent style set by the browser and cannot be changed. And therefore, it's more permanent. It's like, it's not a relative unit at all at that point. And that's what we were talking about. We're talking about why would you want a relative unit at all for measuring media queries, right? Because pixels are supposed to tell you the exact width. You want specific things in the media query. You don't want relative things in the media query. So, okay, that makes a lot of sense. So, yep, without letting it be relative, you'd be robbing the user of choice. Yeah, I don't think you even can change the root EM value. Let's go on. So, unit rem and media queries always uses the default font size in the browser setting and is not affected by font size of HTML except for existing bugs in WebKit Engine. The font size in browser settings. Oh. And is not affected by the font size of HTML. Very interesting when using media queries. So you should use EM instead of rem with media queries before the bug's fixed. Well, there you go. I mean, that's why I wasn't using AMs and REMs at all, because even in 2014 there were even more bugs. I think he kind of did, but I think it's safe to say that EM is the one to use. All he's saying here is that rem has a bug. That's it. So, and when was this? This is relatively recent. The annoying thing about all of this, and if you're a beginner and you're still with us, which you probably aren't, you probably took off. But if you are, the annoying thing about this is that there are so many little bugs and things you have to know. You just want the answer. You just want somebody to say, tell me what to use. I don't want to have to figure this out all the time. It's an EM that's driven by user preferences according to the spec, not REM. That's what I would have thought. But what this person's claiming, the user agent, so it depends. But if you change, so I have a question. If you change the relative media size, can you change when you change the font like I did, right? Does that change the user agent style sheet? I can probably test that. When you change the font, like when I changed the font size, did it actually change the user agent style sheet? Or is the user agent style sheet some fixed thing that you can't mess with that's different than your user preferences, which is what this is here. It's a different wording. Yeah, this one says Unit REM in media queries always uses a default font size in browser settings. So are browser settings different than user agent and user preferences? I would think they would be the same. That's, I think, what you're talking about. Here are some experiences. Try this. So you should use EM instead of REM with media queries before the bugs are fixed. Look, Brad's using EMs too. Moral of the story, use EMs in your media queries and drop pixels. Pixels will still work, but you can just use EMs. So the fact of the matter is we don't really need pixels at all. Probably some very small edge cases where you need them, maybe changing the font size of your entire document. So you can divide by 10 or something. Other than that, everything should be in EM. And I need to go back and change a bunch of my stuff, actually. Recently I did a bunch of stuff with PX just cause. So he says here on Chrome, the breakpoint is blah, blah, blah. Always use browser fonts. Always use browser default font size. I don't understand what he's showing us here. I probably have to go do it. REM and EM aren't the same, right? They are absolutely not, according to this. Wait, how do I view the big one? I can't remember where to click. There's a way to look at the whole site. It's not right here, is it? I can't see it. Scroll down to see the differences the browser is showing. All right, fine. Oh, wait, there we go. Oh, wow. I seem to remember seeing something like this before. Oh, there's all the, this is all the experiment you really needed to do if you were to do it on your own. He just did the experiment for us. So there's your answer. So REM is bad. This is a bug, should not be applied to font size. But that's in Safari apparently. Change view. Oh. Flip the page. So those are all good, right? And this uses stuff. And what is this? Another one? Does he have a link to that one? Do I have to change something? Actually, no. We just have to change our media query, right? Yup. Editor view. I don't think we're going to see the error here because this is not Safari, right? Yeah. This is not Safari. We'd have to have Safari on here to test it. So apparently the bug only affects Safari. Oh, the new IE is now Safari. True story. Safari sucks at so many levels these days. I know. I'm not gonna see it. The new IE is now Chrome. You think? I don't know about that one. I don't know about that one. Well, okay, so there. I've got my answer. I'm actually going to make a log about it. I'm going to say just use EMs for media queries. It will save you a lot of hassle. And here's why. So somebody found it. Good for you. Whoever found it. Points to you. I think Safari is right and everyone else is wrong. Not oh boy. Oh boy. Now that we can just use EM, I'm waning. My energy level is waning, if you can't tell. Yeah, we got relative units for everything. Actually, yeah. The specs is all relative units. All relative units. Yeah, I know. I'm a little bit tired myself. Now that we can just use EM for media queries, a lot of hassle to just use. Here's the bug. Here's the bug on the media query thing. But you know what? It's going to change tomorrow. That's the problem. You have to keep up on it. I hate keeping up on it. It's really exhausting. Is irrelevant now since Google rules the planet, unfortunately. It will save you a lot of hassle to just use EM, to use REM and VH and VW for everything except media queries. EM. Looks like pixels are only used to set font size these days. I'm kind of glad all this has gotten getting standardized. More than in 2014, at least. I think it's time for me to go away. So I'm going to go away. But as we conclude this little session here, you know what was happening. You cannot throw a page on CSS units in front of us and not expect us to not lose a full 90 minutes. I'm just going to say, if you're a beginner and you've survived all of this, just know there's only 3 units that matter. Now, REM for everything, VH, VW, VH, VW, and EM for media queries, and the occasional PX to change font size on the root or something. That's it. If you're going to do print stuff, learn about print stuff. Nobody's doing print stuff. If you are doing print stuff, though, if PDF or something, then yeah, learn the other units for print. Otherwise, just use that and you'll be happy. Discussing Euclid's definition of the point, a point in which a point is that which has no part. Oh my. A point is that which has no part. Oh my gosh, we could spend forever talking about that. I don't dare look to see what's behind. Oh, hey, look, absolute units. All right, we just covered that. a pixel is apparently 1/96 of an inch, but you don't care because you're not going to use pixels. You might need to use millimeters and centimeters. If you're doing print, more power to you. Relative units, use the rem unit, which we talked about. Don't bother about it saying the EM unit is a relative unit. Don't use EM because EM is relative to its container unless it's a media query, in which case it's relative to the root font and you should use it, which is why we were confused. All of us were confused because what is a container? So don't use EM for anything but media queries. And for media queries, use EM every time. That's what it sounds like is the current thinking. And so there we go. All the stuff about that. Man, we looks like we bumped through that. Here we go. Visual height and width. These are very, very powerful. They're ways to get essentially percentages without using percentages per se, because they are, you know, it's a really crazy thing is you can actually change the height relative to the width, which is really weird, but you can do it. Developer tools right in the browser. Oh, now she's going to talk about developer tools. Really? We've been doing developer tools for like 2.5 months. It was the first thing I showed everybody, and now she's bringing it up. All right, well, that's fine. I mean, at least it's there. Moving forward with CSS. Okay, so there's more there to go into. Test yourself. I think we're done with this chapter. Holy cow. Formatting. Wait. Formatting text. Boom, we made it through a chapter. All right, we're going to start with chapter 12 next Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern time. Thank you so much for joining. One more round with the chat. jQuery, XQuery, media query, exactly. You guys are crazy. You're making this so much more fun, though, having all these crazy people in this community. Learning is more fun when you can do it this way. I just agree. Tavern's over here saying all kinds of things, and he's like, wait, no one's hearing me. Thank you for stopping coming on in. Hey, Elsie. It means what devices the user using. Yes. And who do we have here? Do we have anybody come? Welcome to the world of web dev. Oh, believe me, dude. I was making a web page when you were in diapers and there was nothing but a speck on it. So there. I was making web pages in 1994, literally. Reading it straight off the spec. I made the world's first blog. I swear to God. I swear to God I did for Nike. Jenny, we were there, right? We were doing it. So anyway, thank you for the comments, you whippersnappers, all of us old people, grandpas and babies. That's a term from, that's kind of a mantra I like for us. I'm gonna shut up now because I'm just saying stupid things, but I think we made some progress. I'm exhausted, which means we've definitely made progress. We learned, we got beat up. I feel like I have such a solid handle on how to do units now. So if for no other reason than that, I feel like this 2 hours has been worth it. And I'm actually now going to go change my recent style sheet that I just did back from pixels to using EM for media queries. I don't have a media query, but and using REMs for everything else. I might even play around with changing my default default font size to 10 so I have decimals. Maybe I don't know. Otherwise, it's kind of hard with the decimal thing, but I've gotten used to it. That's all. Bye. $12 was the old grid system? Okay. Yeah, we don't need 12 anymore. We have our own grid system. Right. I'll have to do that. I don't know. I'll just stay with 16 for now.